Okay, Nick, you are now a co-host. Can you unmute yourself now?
Yeah, I was able to do that. That's
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah, so I'm just making everyone who should be able to speak without who has, on the board as a co-host, and everyone else is now locked out of speaking. Ah, okay. So anyone know who Jason Rader is? Let's admit him.
Jason Roeder is a town meeting member who lives on Sheffield.
Okay, well then he should be coming in. So right now we're just waiting for Carrie Layton. And I'm trying to admit Jason, but something's not working.
He's in.
Okay. It's just a lag on my screen then. Nancy's with us. Richard's with us. Just waiting on Carrie. So why don't I start recording? I can figure out how to do that. I'm going to have to stop sharing. And Carrie Layton has entered the room. We're all here. Yay. Okay, welcome everyone. I'm going to start recording.
Recording in progress.
Welcome everyone to the April 11th, 2023 Winchester Planning Board meeting. We are being recorded both on Zoom and by WinCam, so if you do not wish to appear on video or on audio, please turn your video off and mute yourself, although at the moment you can't unmute yourself. Okay, I'm going to make you co-host. This is our attempt at not getting Zoom bombed. Is I'm making everyone we want to speak a co-host. So Carrie, do you want to try unmuting yourself?
Yes, all set.
Excellent. Okay, so let's do a roll call vote. Sally Dale.
I am here.
I Ching Scott.
Present.
Nick Rosettos.
Present.
Carrie Layton.
Present.
And Dave Jerry's, I'm present as well. Welcome also to Brian Manter, Assistant Town Engineer, Nancy Polcari, our recording secretary. And as I said, WinCam, thank you much. And we have Richard Leaf from the Chamber of Commerce, our liaison is here, and also a number of other, I recognize a number of residents. So we have a full schedule. And I Ching, are you going to be running the boards this evening? Excellent. So if you could put up the agenda. So we have a number of updates that I'd like to get through before we get to the meeting on articles. We are probably going to have a short meeting next week in order to deal with our report to town meeting. We'll get into that later. As usual, we will also have meetings right before town meeting. We're going to schedule for every night, but we probably won't have to do that because we should be able to do our discussions of other articles before then. One of the things we have to do today is vote on a representative to the Emerging Housing Choices Forum that's coming up on May 11th, and that's Sally and I Ching are the ones who would be up for that. We have a lot of stuff that we need to do for the MBTA Section 3A. Sally and I met with the subgroup of people last Thursday, and one of the things that's coming up is that so we need to delineate which parts of the center business district should remain first floor commercial. So section 3A requires that there be by right multifamily. And so what we're trying to do is figure out which parts we want to maintain as by right commercial on the first floor. And these are areas which would not be added to the section that would count towards our MBTA requirements. We are fine with units, but there's an area issue that there's some, they're working on in terms of the total acreage we need. And so one of the ideas is using Parkview, rezoning Parkview, or adding it, I should say, rather, to our acreage. And that gives us a little bit of breathing room. But we need someone to go into the CBD and mark down which parts should remain first floor commercial. And we need to get that done by April 17th. So I'm looking for, we don't have to come to a decision tonight, but I'm looking for volunteers from the planning board to just come up with a map of the CBD and start drawing X's. Because we have to put that into the model to see whether or not we are compliant. Let's see, Sally and I met with FinCom for a second time last Thursday, I believe it was. Just trying to make sure that they understand where our consulting monies go and what the programs we have in front of us. And I trying to clear up some misconceptions perhaps about how the planning board and the town planner work together. Last night, Sally and I were in front of select board and we presented our meeting articles. And then finally, and I may have said this already, Civico, the developer for the Waterfield lot parcel, has reached out there looking to submit very, very soon. That's just a heads up. And I think that's it for I have for updates. Sally, was there anything you wanted to add?
Sally, you're on mute. You're on mute, Sally.
Oh, you can't unmute?
Now I can, thank you. It said host was not allowing. Just to pay attention to the Town Day memo that I sent out, and we can talk about it later. But look it up and assemble your thoughts. I guess that is the only thing I can, and to look at the ADU brochure that I sent out. Did I send it to only to the ADU group, or did I send it to the whole planning board?
Could not tell you.
Well, I don't know if you
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just had a question on when we were looking at the center business district. Are we talking about by right uses or by right building?
We're looking at by right building.
So what it is that if we use every single lot in the CBD to count towards our number of multifamily dwellings that have first floor residential within a half mile of the train station, it means that we would be zoning the CBD to not have first floor commercial, but we have the option of exempting specific lots or buildings from the CBD and saying, nope, those are first floor commercial and they're staying that way. And we need someone to go around and mark a map of every first floor commercial building in the CBD that we want to stay first floor commercial.
So for instance, I think everyone would say Thompson Street should remain first floor commercial. And then maybe the main drag so those are the our consultants have they don't know exactly what they have an idea of how to move forward, but they need that local knowledge, and they need to know which parts of the CBD we want to remain the key is that if someone comes in and it's currently first floor commercial and it's rezoned as multifamily, they could possibly take that first floor commercial out and replace it with a multifamily unit. And I think that we all want to see good parts of the CBD retain that
Right.
first floor commercial.
Is there any way that we can have someone come in and talk to us as the planning board? Because I'm concerned about changing, in other words, having a precedent for by right building where it's not now. And I'd like to learn more about that.
Nick, we have no choice. We have to put in by right multifamily in the CBD. We have to do that because that's what the state law says we have to do.
So Nick, this is part of the MBTA community's 3A legislation, and if the towns that don't comply with this have two things that can happen to them. One is that they will be cut off from a portal for state funding called MassWorks, which is a common portal for, I don't know, maybe a dozen different funding sources. And the second thing is it was recently announced that the Attorney General can take those towns to court.
Okay, well, I'm just concerned about it. I want to learn more about it, and I want to make sure that we've looked at all of our options regarding by right use in the central business district.
Well, we have to provide by right multifamily. There's no question. So the question.
Well, I mean, so are we talking about new construction that's going to have no sort of design oversight?
No,
it's just zoning those lots. It's just a zoning thing.
Yeah, there's nothing about design. There's about, if you walk in and you see a lot, can you go in and pull a permit to put in multifamily with no special permits? And we can certainly put in design review. That's not a problem. The thing is that we cannot require, in some areas, we cannot require that they put in a commercial unit. There's a certain number there's a certain area within the center business, within a half mile of the downtown train station, where we must have a certain amount of by right multifamily zoning. And so we need
like where? I think we need to have a conversation with the planning board to find out what we're talking about here, to take the opportunity to bring what's been happening with the zoning side group and bring that right online to the planning board at some point, maybe after the meeting,
Well, in order to do that, we need to provide them with some options. So they have been working offline to try to understand what our zoning is. And they now need to have more input as to, and this is just a first cut, but they're working on bringing them in without providing them some input on what their model is. So they have to run models to determine whether we're going to be compliant. And at this point, they need to know which areas of the CBD not to include in their model. And so this is an exercise of simply taking a map of the CBD and saying, Thompson Street, we want to keep as first floor commercial. The main drag, we want to keep as first floor commercial. Lucia's first floor commercial. We need to mark those areas so that they can run their models. And that, when they run their models, then they can come back and tell us. We'll have them back in a meeting, but right now their models are not based on local preference. Their models are based upon they're reading our bylaws. So this is where we need this is the beginning of the local input so they can come back to us. I mean, there's not a lot of much to talk about right now because they haven't really run the models. So we are planning on bringing them in. We have to bring them in, and they know that they're going to make a presentation to the full board. There's no doubt about that. So
the planning board will have to sponsor these zoning bylaw changes in town meeting at some town meeting in the not too distant future. So we have to have a full understanding of what it is that we're proposing to do to meet the requirements of the law.
Yeah, they have enough money from the state to run 3 models. So it's sort of like, we get 3 wishes from the genie. So we need to give them the data So that allows it, so we don't waste one of those runs, because they're fairly complicated.
Mhm.
So I'm just looking for, there are specific things we have to make sure. We can't gerrymander. There have to be there. So there's a couple of rules
What-
about how you would mark it out. But right now, I'm just looking for a couple of volunteers who would, sign up to doing this, and we could certainly provide you all of the information that you need in order how to do it efficiently.
I'm really close to downtown. I'm happy to take a map and go look around.
Okay, so why don't we talk offline, and Nick, if you're interested, the more the merrier. We can talk offline about the rules that are required. So, because they have to be contiguous and you can't have stuff split and all that. So, okay.
Okay, and what's, I guess, just what's an example of a multifamily dwelling now in the center business district?
Sure. So the one that, there is, good Lord, I don't want to call it the place that Tom Howley lives, but it's the
place that Tom Howley lives.
lives.
It's across from the Arts on the Common.
Oh, the arts.
There's a beautiful brick building. It's a 3-story building, I think.
Oh, I see. Yeah, the brownstone. It's made out of brick.
There's
Right.
if you go up the hill on
Right.
Elmwood, I'm not quite sure if the CBD starts there or not, but there's a multi-story up on Elmwood.
Right. Okay. All right.
So
It's all about the first floor.
Yeah, but those are first. Yeah, I think it's a residential building with no commercial. So
Yes.
Okay.
okay, great. So that I think we don't have minutes today. So now we get to talk. We have a lot of people.
Oh, I
joining
thought
us.
we did. I'm sorry.
Oh, do we have minutes?
I
I
thought,
didn't see any.
I didn't see any.
Nancy, help me out. I thought we had minutes from Tuesday, March 21st to review.
I don't think so.
You might have to unmute Nancy.
Yeah, I gotta find Nancy. Nancy, I'm gonna ask you to unmute. I believe that should allow you to unmute. If not, raise your
Yes, it
hand.
did. No, you're fine. So I did send Suzanne some minutes, but it looks like she didn't put them in the packet.
Okay. So
So can we do these on the 18th?
we will not do them tonight. We'll figure out when to do them.
Okay.
So right now, we're going to move forward with our zoning articles, and I'm actually going to do presentations. So I don't know if you had a chance to pull that zip file down, I Ching, or I can just take over screen sharing.
Yeah, I have it.
Okay. Yeah. So if you go,
This is it?
yeah,
This
if you go
one?
in Springtown meeting. And then let's go to the zoning motions and backgrounds. That's the cleaned up version of what's in front of you. And then I'll go into the description, the actual presentation that I've come up with. So very quickly, there are 3 articles that the planning board is presenting to town meeting. The first is simply our report, so we can skip over that. And I should note that this is, I'm sorry, we have to open this. This is a public hearing, so we need to open this public hearing. So could I get a motion to open the public hearing?
I move that we open the public hearing for the planning board's articles to be presented at spring 2023 town meeting, starting on April 24th.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
And the roll call vote, please. Let's see, who's first? Carrie,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Sally,
I,
and I say aye as well. Okay, thank you all. So the way this public hearing works is that I'm going to present each article, and then I'm going to ask for public comment. The planning board, this is our chance to listen to the public. So we let the public say everything they want, and we sit back and we take notes. There's no real back and forth here, unless there's a clarifying question from or at some point that needs to be clarified. So folks who are just entering, because we're being Zoom bombed, I've turned off the ability for people to unmute themselves. So if you would like to speak, please raise your hand when we get to the public input portion of this. So with those rules down, let's move down to Article 2. And Article 2 is a pretty short article. We want to fix what's essentially a Scrivener's error in a dimensional table, which for the RDA district. And why don't we, if you could switch over to the presentation for this I Ching. I'm sorry, I'm making you go all over the place. If you go to the 4.1.11, please.
I think something about it is not working because
It's just a PDF.
yeah, I had a hard time downloading it from your.
Okay, well, why don't I just take over the screen share at this point and just present this? Okay, so yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes,
Okay, so I believe this is Article 4, but I'm not quite sure. Let's call it Article 10.
I think it's Article 2.
Okay, well, whichever it is, when we get to town meeting.
Well, no.
Okay, so this is a simple change in table 411 dimensional requirements. It changes the minimum lot width for district RDA from 120 feet to 100 feet. And the question someone has asked is why 100 feet? And the answer, I hope, as you can see in this table, this is actually an excerpt from table 411. And the next slide will hopefully show you what's going on. So if you look at the minimum lot frontage in feet for all of the districts, and you look at the minimum lot width, you'll see that for everyone but RDA, they're the same. And what this means is that it allows you to have a rectangular lot. But for the RDA, for some reason, when they normalized everything previously, they left it at 120. And what we'd like to do is to just make it 100 so that it's consistent with all the other lots. So why do we want to do this? Well, it's pretty simple. We want to do it because the current situation leads to a kind of a nonsensical consequence, namely that if the minimum frontage is measured where the lot hits the street, and the minimum lot width is measured where the house, it's across the lot at the narrowest part of the lot that's adjacent to the house. So what we see here is that when you have a minimum frontage, which is smaller than a minimum lot width, a perfectly reasonable looking rectangular lot is non-conforming because you have the minimum frontage, but you don't have the minimum lot width. While if you do have the minimum frontage, you're actually required to have a trapezoidal lot. So how will this affect existing lots? This will not make any lots newly non-conformant, and some lots may actually now be made conformant. And so that is the gist of this article. So what I'd like to do now is see if there is any public comment on this particular article. And again, for those of you who have just joined us, in order to prevent Zoom bombing, you are not able to unmute yourself. So if you would like to speak, please raise your hand and I will unmute you or ask you to unmute yourself.
Do you know if people can raise their hands?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
And I'm guessing Roger Wilson is raising his hand.
Thank you, Roger.
And I'm going to ask you to unmute. And can you try unmuting, Roger?
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
So I wanted a little more explanation of where this RDA is, what it
Okay.
applies to.
The RDA is, let me pull out the, I'm going to pull up the
The
map.
first slide.
Yeah,
Oh,
I saw it briefly.
the first slide was not meant to be descriptive, but it was, I believe RDA is 10,000 square foot lots.
No, it's 20.
Oh, I
it's-
always get them messed up.
It's
20.
all the properties that are basically west of Cambridge Street, except those that are Conservancy, what's it called? Conservancy Institutional
SCI.
or Winning Farm.
Yeah, let me see if I can bring up a zoning map if my computer works.
I can try to do that. You want?
Sure.
Actually, that's not entirely accurate. It's not all.
Yeah, I've got the zoning map and I'm opening it. And let me change my screen share to allow that to be seen. I think what I'll do is I'll just show my entire screen and you'll just have to put up with the mess.
It's a good question, Roger.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so it's taking a long time to render. What's going on here? It's loading. They've changed the zoning map to be a vector map now, so it's a little slower to load. Okay, so here it is, and RDA. I'm going to have to make this bigger because
It's the tan, the light tan. You see the color below Winning Farm?
Yeah, so it's this area all on the west side is RDA.
And the as of right lot size, minimum lot size is 20,000 square feet in that section of town. And this is where that discrepancy occurs in the table of dimensions.
Yep, table of dimensions. Does that answer your question, Roger?
Well, I'm just trying to, you said there were no lots would be rendered non-conforming.
Yep.
And some would be rendered conforming. So how many, I'm just trying to get an idea how many, what numbers are we talking about? Do we know how many lots are in this category to begin with, et cetera, et cetera?
We have not done a analysis of the number of lots that would be affected. This is because this was just an old Scrivener's error.
And has it had any impact on anything?
The building commissioner has said that this is something he's wanted to have fixed for a while. I presume I will ask Al if he has a particular, if there was something that came up. But I believe this was just a cleanup job.
Okay. Thank you.
Maybe we can ask him to make a remark if requested at town meeting.
Sure.
It just seems to me that you should explain what the impact is a little more quantified fashion.
Okay, I mean, the problem there is we'd have to actually get this engineering to do a GIS survey of that section of town and to do I mean, that's the problem is we'd have to make sure we have to go in and get the frontages for all the properties and then find the minimum width.
Okay.
That's just a lot of work.
So is this map available somewhere?
Yes, this is directly available off of the town's website. Actually, if you go to the planning, I'll take you to it. If you go to the planning board, hopefully you can all see that. You go to subdivision regulations and zoning bylaws, and right down at the bottom, zoning map.
Okay, Great, thanks.
Sure.
Also a good question.
Yeah, yeah, so I'm gonna mute you, Roger, and Maureen Pimental. Please go ahead. Can you unmute yourself?
Hi, thanks so much. I just had one question.
Yep.
Just talking about it being just an error in documentation. Did this change get proposed from the building department from Elwell, or was it
Yes.
proposed by another route?
No, this was, I believe, directly from Al Wild. This is something that so Al has a series of little things that he's come upon in the zoning bylaws over the years, that he and Brian Zucchelli were setting up sort of a schedule of things to clean up, and this was one of them.
Okay, thanks so much. Very helpful.
Sure. Okay. Any other questions or comments? And Maureen, I'm going to lower your hand so I don't get confused. Any other questions or comments on this one? Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is the one I'm sure everyone is here for. So, let us move on to Article 355. Okay, so I'm showing you the actual wording changes. I think I will do that, but I think what's more important to actually talk about the intent. So let me.
Can you make it bigger? Is it?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
good, thanks.
So, and I'm sure there's. Okay,
Perfect.
so Article 3. So let me make it a little smaller. So Article 3 is asking the town meeting to amend Section 355 of the zoning bylaws, which in Section 355 has to do with the process by which single and two and duplex structures can go and obtain a special permit if they are non-conforming. And the actual wording changes on 355 look minor, and we will get into them in a bit. They are simply adding in, this is a clarification, and this is new language down here, which is also a clarification. When I say clarification, I use those words because it actually is not designed to change the intent of the bylaw, merely the language expressing that intent. And let me dive into the presentation, which hopefully will provide a little bit of background, and hopefully everyone can see that. So when our bylaws were recodified in 2009, Section 355 was written in order to make it easier for certain projects to obtain special permits instead of variances. It was written to be consistent with the intent and the existing law and case law at the time. In 2014, case law changed, and it changed how bylaws such as 355, which distinguish between special permits and variances, have to be written. At the moment, there's a difference in interpretation as to how 355 should be applied between the building department and the zoning board of appeals. This is not a good situation. Everyone should be on the same page. So 355 has to be amended in order to reestablish its original intent and to provide clarity. And let me go into that a little further. So in 2009, prior to 2009, if you had a non-conforming house or lot and you wish to make a major or a minor, usually a minor addition to your home, there were very few ways you could do it. We have over 2,000 lots in our town which are non-conforming. And if you could not do it by right, then you had to go and obtain a variance. And a variance is extremely difficult to obtain. At the time the zoning bylaws were recodified in 2009, it was made much easier for a non-conforming house to enter into the special permit process. So a special permit process, which I'll go into later, is actually a fairly lengthy process, which requires review by a number of boards. But at least the homeowner could have a chance of getting something done. However, in a case in 2014, and town council at town meeting will be much better at explaining this than I can. In 2014, oops, sorry, what happened here? In 2014, case law essentially said that you had to be much more explicit about how you specify when a project is exempt from a variance and can use a special permit. So what does this article do? This article amends 355 so it is consistent with the original intent from 2009 and is consistent with current case law. And it maintains the status quo, as it were. The language that was inserted is language that town council has written, and town council is tasked to make the minimum changes required to achieve these two goals. Nothing else, just these two goals. So I know there's been some confusion about what the effect of this article is, but it does not make it easier to get a special permit. It doesn't change the process. It doesn't exempt more properties. It essentially makes it clear that 355, it will remain interpreted as it has been since 2009. If this article does not pass, then we have an issue, and that is that all of a sudden we have two parts of town government which now see things differently. The building department will interpret 355 as it has been, and it will advise homeowners to apply for a special permit. The ZBA will look at those projects and say, no, that's not a special permit, that's a variance. And so now we're reaching issues where homeowners are confused. We have an increased possibility of legal challenges. So this is something that we need to fix. So I'm going to dive a little more into 355. I gave some of it in my intro. Winchester has many non-conforming single-family and duplex homes. They're non-conforming because a lot of the town was built before we had zoning bylaws. If you want to make some sort of a modest change, if you want to bump out for a kitchen, if you want to put a deck on the back of your house, things like that, often you are not able to obtain a by right permit. And if in order to do so, you have to intrude into a setback, say by a foot or an inch or 2 feet, then if you aren't able to get a special permit, you have to move to a variance. So as I said before, prior to 2009, it's very difficult. 355 made it easier. So for those who are unsure of what a non-conforming lot is, it's a lot that's too small, a lot that's too narrow or isn't deep enough, a lot that doesn't have enough frontage when you get to the street, a lot which has too much building for the size of the lot. You might have a house that's too close to the lot line because it was on a larger property that got subdivided in the past. Very rarely there are houses which are too large. Typically big houses are in big lots. You might have a garage which is too close to your house, or it's too close to the lot line, and there are others. So 355 took this category of non-conforming lots, and it essentially split it into two categories. It said, if you are going to do something on your project which actually doesn't increase the non-conformity of the existing lot, and your lot has these certain characteristics, then the building commissioners can say, okay, you can actually do those by right. Everything else, and this is the key language, all other projects would be allowed to petition for a special permit. So 355 used rather broad language. It said you can either go for by right, or you go through special permit. And it's that broad language of saying all other projects, or in any other case, the exact language, which is where we're getting into a little trouble. So why do we worry about by right or special permit or variance? We worry because there's an ease of obtaining it, and we want to make it possible for homeowners to be able to do modifications to their property. By right is easy. Special permit goes through a much more intensive process, and a variance is just really hard to get. It's essentially not going to happen. So by right means that all of your dimensions, your setback, your use regulations are met, or the zoning bylaw provides an exemption, and then the building department says, here's your permit. A special permit is when you're not eligible for by right because there's something about your property or something else, but the zoning bylaw says, yeah, you can go through a special permit. So you have to go to a special permit granting authority, which for most of the town is the ZBA, and they have wide discretion. There's a number of criteria that you have to meet in order for your special permit to be approved. So it's not like you go up there and you say, here's my special permit, and they stamp it. You actually have to do some work. If you can't get a special permit, then you have to go through a variance. And a variance is really restricted to if you have something very special about your lot, like a soil condition or the topography or a really odd shape, which sets it apart from the rest of your neighborhoods. And you have to prove that this is a hardship. And it's really difficult for that to happen. They're very rarely granted. So if you want to go through a special permit, you have to go through a number of different committees to get the special permit. You have to pass a number of standards. And for 355, what's really key is that the zoning board has to substantiate that they are not more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure to the neighborhood. And this is the neighbors can come in and comment. There's a lot of room for discussion, and the zoning board can, or the SPGA can simply say, no, it doesn't meet these criteria, you can't go forward. So I'm going to stop here because I think I've used up most of the time, but I want to have time for people to comment or ask questions. So why don't I pop up the participant list? I can't see it for some reason. Oh, it's because I moved it off screen. Oops, come on. So if there's anyone who would like to ask a question or make a comment, please raise your hand and I will unmute you, or I'll ask you to unmute yourself. And Richard Leaf has raised his hand. Let's see if I can find you on this. Shoot. Where are you, Richard?
I think I did it.
Okay, thank you. Richard, can you speak?
I can speak. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Great. So I have I really have one big comment and just one small comment. So the big comment is, I'm Richard Leaf from Leaf Design Associates, just for the audience, and we've been practicing as Leaf Design for about 25 years, pretty much doing residential projects in town in Winchester, and lots of additions and lots of projects that all are affected by this discussion. So I guess my first comment is I really want to express to anybody who's kind of new to this issue how much I appreciate what the planning board is trying to do by clarifying the language so as to basically keep the past interpretation of the zoning laws moving forward. So this is just a thank you to everybody on the planning board and to the people in the audience. I want you to know that me as an architect in town, I'm 100% in favor and appreciative of what the planning board is trying to do here, and very grateful. And that's my big comment. And my small comment is, and this is not necessarily factual, but I will tell you that we've been we've probably applied for about 85 to 90 special permits going back to about 1999 or 2000. So I do have a lot of institutional memory. And even though I think everything is factually correct about the what you're saying about 2009, I want to sort of communicate to everybody that back in 2004 and 2005 and 2006, it was still pretty much the same. This has been going on before 2009, in that if we had a kitchen addition or a family room addition and something about the lot or the house was non-conforming, we were able to apply for a special permit and go through the process and ask the zoning board whether or not they would grant us relief. So from my point of view, even though factually and the laws and everything and recodification of the zoning laws, all of that is factually correct, but in practice, my experience doing this for a lot longer than 2009 is this was going on in the early 2000s. We were going for special permits numerous times, 4 or 5 times a year. Anyway, thank you to the planning board for the opportunity to speak and for your efforts on this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Leaf. Is there any other comments from the public? And 2 participants have raised hands. Yi-Ching, could you please moderate that, because I really can't see that.
Roger. See Roger?
Yeah, but I can't do it here.
I did it.
Okay.
Roger, I think you can speak.
Okay, sorry. This may be a little off topic, and you might want to talk about it later, but I am wondering if this special permits has anything to do with the projects I'm seeing all over town where a building is sort of nominally modified, but actually totally rebuilt, where they leave a tiny bit of siding for a little bit, and then eventually the whole thing is just reframed inside the shell of the existing building and so on. I've seen this all over town, and I'm wondering if the special permits are related.
So as long as they maintain the existing footprint of the structure, they do not require a special permit. So there's a question maybe if what they're doing is akin to almost a demolition, and then they're rebuilding so that's a separate section that's actually in the town bylaws regarding demolition delays for historical properties. So maybe but you would only need a special permit if you are extending beyond the existing footprint, if you were on a non-conforming lot. I don't, we see the planning board does review all of the special permits which are seen by the ZBA, and I don't recall that we've seen something like that recently. So I'm guessing those all went through with just normal building permits.
Well, the footprint. Well, first thing, do you understand what I'm referring to?
Yeah, it's sort of like they take everything down except for like one wall, and then they build it out. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, basically, they're taking the existing frame, building a 2x6 frame inside it, and then removing siding, the sheathing, I should say, in many places, but leaving it in a few sort of nominal places. but I can't understand why anybody would build a house that way unless there was some regulatory factor.
I think there are two things going into it. One is that they're trying to avoid a demolition permit. And so
Okay.
by leaving some of the walls up, there's been some discussion over the years as what constitutes a full demolition. And if you leave a couple walls up, then you don't have to go through the demolition permit. And the other is if they are truly still building on the actual footprint of the original house, then they do not have to go through a special permit unless something else triggers it. So that's another way of avoiding going through a special permit.
Yeah, but in the cases I'm talking about, portions of the existing foundation are left, at least portions of it. So anyhow, I don't mean to take any more of your time.
I would say, Roger, that contact the building commissioner and ask if you have a particular one which really stands out as a good example. Go talk to the building commissioner, because we see just a small fraction of what goes on in town. So,
okay.
Thank you. And then someone else raised their hand. I don't know who. Yiching, do you see that other person?
I don't.
Okay, so maybe they put their hands down. So are there any other comments or questions? Again, if you have questions that haven't been resolved, you can always, I keep forgetting to say this, you can always email us at planningboard@winchester.us. I know this, usually the planning board's hearings are a lot earlier, and I apologize for that. Our scheduling is a little off this time, but certainly please send us your comments or questions at planningboard@winchester.us. Let me see if I can, I know we have another hearing coming up. So let me, I don't know where I am right now. Let's see what our agenda.
At 8 o'clock, we're supposed to review a petition, and at 8:25, another petition.
Okay, so we're 8 o'clock, and I think patience for the people from Cross Street have joined us. So I'm going to ask that we close this hearing, since there doesn't seem to be any other questions. Is there a motion to close the public hearing on the planning board's town meeting articles?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Carrie?
Aye.
Sally?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Yiching?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
And Diab says aye as well. So thank you all very much. Again, if you have any questions, just shoot us a line and we'll get back to you. I am going to stop sharing right now, and then we are going to move into our next portion, which is a presentation by the proponents of the local initiative project on Cross Street. And I believe that, I know I saw you here somewhere, Lynn. Oh, there you are. Hi. So Lynn Sweet. So this is going to be so we're going to get a brief, an introduction to the project this evening, I believe. And certainly this is going to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals, we're the special permit granting authority in this area, and they're going to be looking at this for a number of meetings. So this is the planning board's opportunity to see it early. So Lynn, I am going to make you co-host.
Would you like me to help drive the presentation?
I think, Lynn, are you going to, do you want to present it yourself, or?
I would, if you don't mind. I just, I guess I do need to be a co-host to run through it. Good evening, Lynn Sweet, LDS Consulting Group. Thank you so much. We're really appreciative of you taking a look at this.
Okay, it is, you should be able to run the show, Lynn.
All right, let's try that. I will give it a shot. I am the 40B consultant on this project, and we're looking forward to getting in front of the ZBA. We understand that you want a quick overview, and you're going to have a discussion about writing a letter with some comments on it. So this is basically an architect's rendering of what we think it will look like. It is going to be with 3-story townhouses, 9 of them. All of them will be rental. 2 of them will be affordable at the 50% of AMI level. Each will have a 1-car garage, and there will be 5 additional parking spaces. Other members of our team, our developer, I think is pretty well known in town, is Mario Cavino. We are working with Engineering Alliance for Civil and Site, local architect Chris Mulhern, and we've got a couple lawyers that are 40B attorneys as well. I'm pretty sure Mario is here tonight, but unfortunately the rest of our team is otherwise engaged. From a process perspective, this is actually what's considered a friendly 40B, and that simply means that the town of Winchester Affordable Housing Trust, as well as Board of Selectmen, signed on to our original project eligibility application, for which we are very grateful. And we went through the project eligibility process with them. Sally, is there a
Yeah,
question?
I just noticed that you have some past dates labeled with later this year, and I'm sure that's a typo.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Those are 2023 dates. Thank you very much. We'll get that fixed for the ZBA. This is our dry run.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, so thank you so much. Anyway, we did go in front of the Housing Partnership Board on 2 different occasions and the Board of Selectmen. And we did conduct a site walk where department heads were invited to participate. And I think, I know there were selectmen there. I think somebody from the planning board might have been there. So the tires have been kicked slightly at this, early stage. And our PEL was issued in January, and we will get our dates fixed. So comprehensive permit process is going to be starting next week, and there's a lot of dates associated with that as well. And we expect there to be a peer review on the stormwater management. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Once we get through the ZBA process, there is another process of going back to DHCD before construction financing. So we're a ways away. I know Mario wants to break ground tomorrow, but we're probably still 6 months to a year away. So what currently sits on the site is a 2-family home that is not salvageable at the moment. Mario has gotten his demolition delay approved. I'm not sure what the exact language is, but he has been in front of the Historic Commission a couple of times. As I mentioned, they're going to be attached 3-bedroom rental homes. All the units will be 1,700 square feet. They'll all have the same finishes, whether it's an affordable unit or market rate unit. They'll look the same on the inside and the outside. They will have Class A apartment finishes. And the one big change that we made from when we started on this was that we widened the driveway and took out the parking along the driveway at the request of the fire department. So we do have a 20-foot drive aisle width, and each home does have a private patio and green space. And we are not asking for, in our minds, a lot of dimensional waivers, trying to stick to the underlying zoning as much as we can, knowing that we're putting more units on than are allowed. So all of the units are going to be affordable in perpetuity. All 9 units will be counted on your SHI. You will definitely get extra brownie points with DHCD for doing a friendly 40B, and that might help with other housing related items for the city. At the end of the day, if this does get permitted, there'll be a regulatory agreement, meaning a long-term affordability restriction on the property that the town can sign on to. And 1 unit will be eligible for local preference if the town would like to request that. And that just simply means that there'll be 2 lotteries. People that are living, working, or have a child in school in Winchester can have a chance in 2 lotteries. So a local preference lottery for 1 unit, and then they'll go into a general pool for the other unit. And it will be marketed through an affirmative fair marketing housing plan. And going forward, there is oversight by DHCD. All of the affordable units will need to be income certified every year. And the state will also be looking at the developer's financials every year to ensure that they have not exceeded their 10% profitability limitation that stays in place for 15 years. I had some fun with colors on this one, and I just wanted to show that there really is a concession by having two of the units of affordable at 15%. You can see that the rent is about $1,000 below what an 80% unit would be, and that's what the statute requires, that you either have 20% at 50% of AMI, or that you have 25% at 80% of AMI. And I just listed here in my bright, sunny spring colors that the income limits are far below what the 80% income limit is. And this is just a location map to show you where Cross Street is. It's next to a vet on Cross Street, and close eventually to sort of that, that kind of the walking trail that goes through. And this is a rendered site plan that simply just shows pavement, green space, building, patios, but a little bit bump out here for a sprinkler room. And there is, I'm going to go quickly. So this is a bigger picture of what it would look like. This bump out is the sprinkler room. I'm not going to go through every single floor plan unless you want me to go back to them. But I think that this is an interesting, important slide. This basically shows you that there is currently a sidewalk along Cross Street. There is currently a striped sidewalk, another sidewalk, and then another crosswalk to get to the school that's in the area, I believe. Hopefully I've gotten that right. We did read the traffic study that was done along Cross Street, and the improvements that are suggested in this part of Cross Street simply have to do with striping the parking on one side of the street, and I believe fixing the sidewalk on the opposite side of the street. But there was no discussion about crashes or issues from what we can, from what I could read. It's pretty dense report. And then this is just sort of another view of existing conditions. This is the house here. There's currently a small retaining wall here and steps going up, and most of this is parking. Kind of context that we are trying to put a big swath of landscaping closer, because there's a residential home here and a residential home here. So while we could have done stackable parking and squished a few more things in here, we're trying not to. This was in earlier. And I did stick in our zoning plan just to show you that we don't need a waiver for minimum lot area or frontage or rear setback or stories or height or open area. So we are asking for a waiver for lot width of about 5 feet. We're going to be asking for a waiver of the minimum rear yards. No, I'm sorry. The side yard setback by about 3 feet. The hardscape we're a little bit over at 7%. And then the green space we're also over about 8%. We are giving 1 parking space to each party, and then there's another 5 spaces. All of those spaces are going to be leased and assigned. The tenants will know that there is no on-street parking, so we will manage the cars through who they professionally lease to. And this is the utility layout. The best I can understand from talking to our engineer is that at the end of the day, because we're putting in a stormwater management system, it should be better than it is today. And I'm really sorry about that. I do have a whole, details on that, but that's not my area. And that we're going to try and beef up our screening to the neighbors over here, and everybody is going to get some plants and we'll put more mature trees here. We need to be careful just about our sight lines kind of coming in and out of the parking lot. So I actually think I'm going to talk with Rick about these. I don't know what they are, but they probably should be just little shrubs over there. And that's really it. That's it. And again, I'm happy to kind of go back and hit on something in a little bit more detail or answer any questions if I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Any questions or comments from the board? Just to reiterate, we are not on the hook to provide anything by April 20th. I think that we will certainly be paying rapt attention as the proceedings go on. So, Carrie, did you unmute because you wanted to say something?
Oh, no, I just, I realized if I did say something, I would be muted. I was musing over, they're all 3-bedroom units and they're each going to have 1 designated parking space. Is that right?
Yes, and then there's going to be 5 parking spaces that can be leased on top of that. And there is also on-street visitor parking.
What is the option over there for extra, I guess the street parking, but they must have the same requirements as downtown for snow events. Is that right? Where do the, I know over here they go in the Jenks, but what's the cross street snow plan? Do you know?
I believe that anyone that they are renting to, they will make sure that they don't have cars that require parking on the street from a management perspective, but I can certainly find out if there is a snow plan in place. I'm not sure it's going to be necessary, but I will get some information on that.
The sort of lease agreement will say 1 car per unit.
The lease agreement is going to say 1 car per unit, and for 5 other people, there might be another one. Okay. And then the visitor parking most likely would be in the street. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the only way. It's got to be managed that way, and presumably those spaces are not going to be inexpensive. The goal is to discourage, and we did garages so that they have the ability to store bicycles in the garages as well as trash and other kinds of things.
Any other questions, Sally?
So I not so much have questions as I have comments about the proposal. And I'm not sure if this is the time to go through those comments or if we can hear from any members of the public first about what questions and comments they may have.
Well, I think that so the ZBA there'll be plenty of opportunity for the public to comment at the ZBA.
Okay.
So I think that right now, since we have 2 minutes left in this segment, if you have something you want to ask or you have a comment, please go ahead and make it.
Okay, I don't know if they'll fit in 2 minutes, but let me start by saying that the trees that you're proposing to put along the front of the property line will be underneath the power lines. And so they will probably not do well over the long term because the power company will come and carve them out. Also on the uphill side of the property, which I guess would be the east side, I don't see any buffering between the site and the adjacent properties. Generally, first of all, I'm extremely grateful for the proposal to put such a what is a significant contribution on a small scale to our subsidized housing inventory. But I have concerns about the design of the building not relating to the neighborhood and possibly being too large for the site. And I also noted that in my opinion, it would be great to have a much more generous local preference provision. So I think that's my top line concerns at this time.
I just had another quick comment.
Let me just, one thing I can respond to is that the state only allows a 70% local preference. And since we only have 2 units, that's why it's 1. There's only 2 affordable units. Sorry. And I'm writing good notes. Thank you.
I
Nick.
just wanted to, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Nick.
I just had something quick on the design. One of the things we've been working with Foreman Place on North Main Street is the relationship of a building to the street. And I'm wondering if you might consider having the first 2 units facing the street and kind of parallel to the curb to kind of create a streetscape, which is one of the techniques that we've been working with to kind of create complete streets and to create an environment that kind of a look of a neighborhood that is in relation to the street, as opposed to sort of just tucked away in the back. But that was just a thought in terms of the design, not really relating to the street, but maybe it could, and it possibly could be an improvement in the overall look of the finished building.
Can I
thank you.
go? Deb, can I go?
Yes, please go ahead.
So I really appreciate the number of units here, and the building type I think is very desirable, in that they're townhouses with each individual entrances to the units, and I think that's wonderful. I do think that the diversity of income types is really admirable as well, and I appreciate that. I think the diversity of the building type, however, it seemed like they are very suited for perhaps very able-bodied folks, bedroom on each floor and garage and a lot of stairs. And from our recent ADU adaptation, sort of noticing that there is a real shortage of ADA accessible units. And I think that perhaps these 3 units, I was just imagining, the 1 bedroom right by the garage seems to be something that is like on the ground and capable, but it is not independent in that it doesn't have sort of a cooking space. So if it could be in some ways, one of the units could be cut up in some ways so that it's not all 3 bedrooms all on different floors, so that they become of diversity of units, I think is something that I think would be very desirable here. Also, I agree with the landscaping. It'd be great if you could just pivot a little bit so that you could have a little bit more of a green space between that and the building to the right. And I'm really curious, because I think since my time here for 2 years now, this is the first LIP that I've seen, and it seems very advantageous to the town, and a really great project. And I just wanted to know from your perspective, what elements of this made it so that it could happen? So what came together in this way so that others might be able to emulate it somehow, and take advantage sort of some of these conditions? Did you understand?
Thank you. No, those we appreciate the comments. We have wrangled with the ADA question getting to this place. So I think that the main advantage is that you have a local developer that has owned this lot for a long time and is able to build it and own it and manage it. So you have kind of that package, so that you're not hiring a third-party contractor and a third-party manager. And I will say that the numbers are slim, but I think that having, the local support and from what we understand, and we'll see where it goes, it's less expensive to apply through DHCD on a friendly matter. The filing fees are less. It's also, we believe that, the peer review process, some of those fees may be picked up by the town. So I agree. I think this is a sweet little infill project, and this is a wonderful way to do affordable housing. And it's certainly, I cannot take credit for the idea. It was 100% Mario's idea and his willingness to go through the process and kind of take a leap of faith. But having the town support has been terrific as well.
Thank you. Great.
Thanks. Any more comments from the board?
Can I just add one thing?
We're on each.
We're over, so I'll hold my comments. Perhaps we continue this hearing. Is that correct?
Well, we will come back to it, yes. This isn't a hearing, this is just a conversation at this point.
Oh, good. Okay, it's not a hearing.
Right, so we don't get to have hearings on this, that's all the ZBAs, they get
Right.
to have all the hearings. We just get to
So
advise.
should I run us over and give my other comment, or should I wait to have us
Well-
put it back on the agenda?
What we're definitely gonna have this back on the agenda.
Okay,
So,
I defer then. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Thank you again, Lynn, and the whole team, whoever showed up. Mr. Mario Covino is here. Thank you for showing up. And I'm sure we'll get to recognize all of your names as you go before the ZBA in the upcoming, hopefully not too many months. But anyway, thank you again for joining us this evening for your presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for your consideration and your comments. We really appreciate it. And I just want to put a shout out, Jonathan Silverstein from our team is here as well. Have a good evening.
Okay.
Good
Thank
night.
Good night. So our next item on our agenda is, we do actually get to make a decision on this one. This is, we make a recommendation. We have ZBA permit number 3994, 40 Foxcroft. And this is a special, no, this is a site plan review for change in grade. And I Ching, could you pop that up, please? If that's handy. Okay, there we go. Thank you. So this is for property at 40 Foxcroft Road, seeking site plan review under section 9517. So it's change of grade of more than 500 square feet by more than 6%. Is located in the RDB zoning district and contains 14,432 square feet. So my understanding is that this is there's an existing home which will be demolished, a new home will be built, there will be a modification of the grade to accommodate that. Why don't we jump right into our assistant town engineer and get a report from him? Brian Manter, you have something to tell us?
Yes, the applicant has provided a stormwater management plan. The plan is in conformance with the Winchester standards. There's some minor refinement to be made to their submittal package. Nothing which substantially changes their approach. They are, it'd be our recommendation that they address these findings prior to the ZBA hearing if possible. I would like to make a little note on one of my comments on item number 23. I had a typo from the 6% grade change. I had 498. That might have been a carryover from a past memo, but it just documents that it's important that the applicant document the existing conditions, grading conditions, their proposed grading conditions, and make sure that their final grading is in conformance with what they've proposed. So other than that, no further comment.
Okay, thank you. We do have comments from, we don't have comments from the Historic Commission, any recent note. We did get a copy of their minutes from a meeting where this building was discussed by them, where they noted that they found it to be of historical import. I think it's
Yeah, we do have comments from the Historical Commission. I think
recent.
Oh, I know what it is. They gave us comments from a long time ago.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They've discussed this in the past, so if we keep scrolling, I think the key is that John Clemson of the Historic Commission previously, I don't believe he's on there anymore,
Correct.
pointed out the relationship of this structure to a possible historic district. And so I believe that if we go to the next page, they voted that it was historically significant. And Yicheng, could you go back to the top? I'm sorry, and so we can get an idea of when this decision came down.
Oh, yeah.
September 21,
Thank you.
Of which year?
1921, right.
September 13th of 2021. So
That's the one.
if there was a demo delay issued, it has long passed, I think is the key thing. At this point, I'll open it up to the board, and I know that we have with us, we have Don Lance and Kathy Lance, who are the owners of the property. And they also sent us a letter today, which I believe the board has seen. And so why don't we open up to the board? Are there any questions that the board, or any concerns? We'll start the discussion. Go right ahead and talk. Sally.
So Brian Manter, I just had a couple of questions about your engineering memo. May I address those?
Yes.
On page 2 of 6, on this question of the abandonment of the water, well, it's more than just page 2, of the abandonment of the water and sewer lines. Can you explain the reason for that?
Yes, because the property is going to be demoed. So it's DPW standards that when you demolish a building, that you abandon the water and sewer.
Okay.
Usually what that does is you cut it at the sewer main and cap it there. And you do the same with the water service, and you cap it there and you remove those lines. And then when the new building goes in, then the applicant would install new water and sewer services.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have a question about why they would need to post signs identifying that there is a porous pavement area. That's 14B. On a residential project, is that something that's required?
It's a standard from Mass DEP. In Mass DEP, they have a handbook on how to design treatment systems, BMPs.
Right.
Purpose Savers being one of them. And one of the items that they recommend for O&M is to install signage noting that there's pervious paver there. I mean, I think that where they're going with that is just to let everyone know and remind folks that there's something here that's different than normal, and be aware of that and not to sand it.
And does the town monitor the monthly vacuum sweeping of porous pavements?
No.
So that's going to be on the what you call it, honor system. At the very end of your report, you said that the approach to stormwater management is in conformance with our standards. I have a concern because the properties that are to the west of this property currently drain, as far as I know, they drain onto this property, and they're proposing to raise the property, grade fairly significantly in the what would it be, southwest corner of the lot. And I want to know if there has been an impact determination on the two properties that are on their west boundary that front on Cambridge Street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when we looked at their model, the applicant the model, they were addressing the runoff from those areas, and they're trying to infiltrate that water into the ground. When you look at total from their site, there is a reduction in runoff, both from existing conditions to post conditions, both in volume and rate from the site as a whole. So,
Okay.
And the applicant, I believe, one of the comments I said we recommend is that they install curbing, and I think they were doing that along their driveway. Between their, it's hard to render this because the north arrow is pointing down, so it's their.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. So like the way it's facing, it makes sense, but north, it's like, so it's there.
Is the north arrow wrong? Oh, no, the north arrow's right. I get it.
Yeah, it's pointing down. So you have to like think about it backwards. So they're butter 36 Foxcroft. You know, it looked like the applicant is making efforts to prevent, runoff from the driveway going into towards their property with curbing. I think there's a retaining wall there. The engineering department requested that they look at extending that curbing further towards the property line at the street line to, help reduce the potential for runoff, going towards their neighbor. Although from a modeling standpoint, the applicant is meeting the standard. This would just be more of another belt and suspenders approach to reduce the impacts to potential impacts to their neighbor.
Okay, and one more question. If you look at a satellite view of the property, and you look at the east border, I guess it's the one that faces, is that 36 you said? That stone wall and all the trees along that stone wall are on this property, but were, I think, and I can be corrected about this, were put there by the abutter. And I would imagine that taking out all those trees to put their driveway there would be something they would need to, I mean, obviously he could be at risk for having put them on the other property, but at least clarify with them that that's going to happen.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out. So are you looking at their drawing, their civil drawing?
I'm looking at proposed site plan.
Yeah, I've just unmuted the owners because they were.
Excellent, thank you.
If there's a question in there, Sally, you want to ask of them?
Well, yeah.
We have another hearing coming right up, so.
Oh, good. Okay, so my question is having to do with their conversations with the east abutter. I guess it's number 36. And are they aware that you are proposing to remove trees?
So are you asking if we're proposing to remove them, or if the abutter is aware that we're proposing to remove them?
Both.
Yes, they're aware. So the stone wall that is to the right of the 36 Foxcroft driveway, that is encroaching upon our land, the 40 Foxcroft land, as well as the trees that were planted there. Those are planted by the 36 Foxcroft abutter. So we are planning to remove those because they're a future adverse possession concern.
So you're leaving the wall, but taking out the landscaping?
The current plan is to remove the wall. It's not that wall, it's the wall to the right of the house.
That one, yes. Oh, no, that picture's not up to date.
That's right.
There is a wall now that goes down their driveway, the 36 driveway on the right side.
That's right. That's fully on the 40 Foxcroft property, as well as the trees. And they were not planted by us. They're planted by the 36 Foxcroft owner.
So you're proposing to not keep that wall, but to create a new wall in a slightly different location. Is that correct?
We'll have curbing along the driveway that would handle any water issues associated with 40 Foxcroft. And of course, there's the infiltration at the end of the driveway, and there's the pervious pavers that will be in the driveway.
Okay, I see. Well, the only other comment I have is that I agree with all of the comments of the design review committee that the house feels really, really big, given the narrowness of the lot.
So hold on a second, Sally. We actually haven't gone to that.
Okay, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. So those are my comments
Okay,
from
thank you.
myself.
So I have a question about that design review comment, because I think I was trying to, sorry, we have so many pages tonight. I was trying to go to the site plan of the street, and it does seem like this 36 and 40 are similar in size, and this map doesn't show 36's increase in encroachment or their new build, which seems similar to what 40 is trying to do as well. Am I correct? Mr. Lance?
Yes.
So that was a funny comment to me, and I don't know if you guys saw, if the applicants have seen the design review comments, but they said that your design somehow is inappropriate to the size of the lot, but I am wondering about how that came to be when 36 seems to have also increased this way and also this way, and you're saying that they are actually closer than as of right to here. Is that what I'm getting from the letter that you guys sent today?
Yeah, so the new house at 40 Foxcroft would be 49 feet 4 inches wide. The house at 36 is, per the town database, it's 7 feet wider than the setback. So it would be 57 feet wide. So it's 7 feet wider than the house that we're planning.
Okay. And then this house also got a special permit to build a large building addition in the back with a garage underneath. Is that correct? And so you guys are proposing a similar sort of mirroring of that.
It's a similar type of home, similar size in the end, except ours will be, it'll be narrower. It'll be 7 feet narrower, a little over 7 feet narrower.
Okay. And it did seem to me that the sloping and your proposal to sort of use that slope as a natural driveway down to the garage is a similar approach to what the 36 did as well. They use that sort of natural grade to go down. So your proposal is not dissimilar to your neighbors.
It's almost a mirror of the neighbors, almost.
So that makes me wonder about design review's comments and that it isn't similar to your neighbors. And I just question that, Sally, in sort of, I don't know if you guys saw the notes from yesterday, and it looked like you guys didn't attend the meeting.
I did not see the Lance's letter to the planning board. Is it dated yesterday or today? I haven't seen it.
It came in today.
All right, let me check my emails.
So I'd like to move this process because we are impinging on our next hearing, but I want to make sure that are there any comments from the rest of the board on this? Just while Sally's looking that up. I mean, there's this, I'm trying to bring up the special permit review criteria, which I think is important here. And
maybe you can share that, Dia, because I don't have that.
The letter or what?
No, I'm going to share the criteria for the special permit, site plan approval. I'm sorry. I'm going to share. Sorry, I lost Zoom again. Zoom keeps disappearing on me. I don't know where it goes.
And so this is the view of your neighbor's yard and their build out here.
That's correct.
And these trees they planted on your lot.
That's right.
Was that done with your knowledge and permission?
No, the house at the time was owned by my wife's father, Frank Fury, and he was not aware that these were being planted, or that the wall was being built on his side of the property line, and the trees were being planted on his side of the property line.
I see.
Okay, so I'm going to steal screen share.
Sure.
And then we'll go and we'll take a look at the site plan review criteria. And then we'll just work through there. Oh, great, where did they go now? Okay. So, what the heck? Sorry. Okay, so I will try to make this larger so everyone can see. Let's see if that works. Okay, so site plan approval is based upon, now, first thing to note is this is coming in for site plan review, rather, not site plan review because of a changing grade. I believe that the new building will meet all the setbacks and requirements. Is that correct?
That's true.
Okay, so we have minimized unreasonable departure from character, materials, or scale of buildings in the vicinity, minimize adverse effect on a historic resource, minimize volume of cut and fill, remove trees, provide adequate storm management, maximize pedestrian vehicular safety, provide adequate access for fire and emergency services, minimize obstruction of scenic views, minimize visual intrusion, minimize glare, minimize contamination of groundwater, and be compliant with the bylaw. So I think that the ones that are of note here would be, there are questions from design review. They feel that this does depart from characters, materials, and scale of buildings, in particular the scale. Adverse effect on a historic resource. I think the fact that a historic resource was declared and is now being removed is an adverse effect. That's just, I don't know how one escapes that. We've always found that, but it's just, you know, minimize volume of cut and fill. I really wasn't able to determine that from your plans. I don't know if the other people on the board have looked at that.
Well, the way that they have taken advantage of the slope to use it as a driveway into the below ground garage, I think, is a minimization of cut and fill.
Okay.
Could I just add that we were originally thinking of having a house with the garages bays in the front of the house, but we received feedback from the town planner at the time that it'd be better to put that in the back, and that's why we're at this site plan review, is because we did move the garage bays underneath the house to the rear of the house. Otherwise, we could have put it on the site without triggering this review.
Thank you for that input.
So on the question of cut and fill, I had some help to create a colored diagram. Sorry for the low technology here. The green is, I guess, retaining existing slope or increasing slope, and the orange is where you're leveling things out. Okay, and I guess I don't know how to say whether this has been minimized or not. I guess my only question about this is that green part so steep that it is beyond what, you know, vegetation can keep from washing away? And I defer to our town engineer with regards to that. Sorry for the coloring paper.
Sally, thank you. I think I understood what you're trying to do. When I look at the proposed topography in the rear of the yard, I think that's where you're looking at and focusing on. It's, from the way I read it, it looks like the applicant is trying to flatten out their backyard a little bit. So the existing 69 topography line is going to start curving in more directly to the rear of their house, so give them more area at an elevation of 69. And then they're trying to do the same with 68 and then with the 67. So the way I'm reading the topography is that they're trying to maybe flatten out the rear of their backyard a little bit. It doesn't look like they're doing really doing a lot of fill there, that, you know, from what I can see, but they're certainly adding a little bit to flatten it out. But that's how I interpret it. Does the applicant can shed more light on that?
So I'll be honest with you, I didn't look at that closely, but I asked my engineer to minimize the changes there, and he did try to keep the slope as small as possible. It is tending to the left now, as it does in that diagram too. So I don't think it's adding a lot of fill there.
Yeah, and to further what Dan just said, you can see that they're not, the general contour of that slope is maintained.
Okay, I think those are the big issues.
If I can follow up on the other question about the steepness of the slope.
I'd like us to move towards perhaps coming to a decision on this.
Yeah, I think that I don't know if the other members of the board have read all the documents related to this, but I don't think it's fair to the applicants if we start voting without doing that.
Yeah, I noticed that your letter that you sent is several pages long, and I truly just saw this. I just don't think that that's our standard practice.
Okay, well then, if we're gonna, so does the board want to take this up again at another meeting?
I do. I don't want to rush through this.
Okay,
I just want to point out that the ZBA meeting is next week on Thursday.
yes.
Which would be Thursday, the 20th.
Yes.
Sounds right.
So this board would have to meet on the 18th if we wanted to take this up again. I think we may have to meet on the 18th in order to deal with town meeting. But
I'm inclined to vote for favorable action based on the fact that they have passed the demolition delay time, and that their proposal was, I think, the design is well considered and within all the setbacks, and it looks nice to me, and it has considered the site and worked with the town planner in order to make it so that it is less garage centric, and it is almost an exact mirroring of a next door neighbor. And I think, sort of based on some of parts of the letter, it does seem like there's some adverse sort of pushing up, and it just doesn't seem that fair to me to ask of special things of this neighbor when the other neighbor seems to have done things that are sort of not within the boundaries of the zoning bylaw either. So in that sense, I vote for favorable action.
is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Okay, is there a second for that motion? I can't make a motion, so I can't second. So if there is no second, we will not consider this further. That motion further. There is no second.
I'm struggling with something. I'm actually the abutter son and my son are both in first grade together, and they have had several play dates, and I'm struggling with. I'm not sure. I think I may have to abstain anyway on this, but it certainly would be nice to get it anyway.
Okay. So thank you for that. So you could recuse yourself if you feel that relationship will affect your ability to be objective. That's thank you for pointing that out. I think this board has a choice. It could take this up again at the next meeting. It could choose not to pass on any of its opinions to the Zoning Board of Appeals, or it could choose, is there another motion from the board?
I would move that we, I'm sorry.
I was just going to point out, we've already spent about half an hour on this evening.
I understand.
It would be nice to resolve it, but next Tuesday. Unless we're meeting next Tuesday anyway, but that'll be too late.
So there's no second on my motion. My motion's on the table. Nobody is seconding it. Right?
I was able to read over most of the letter and most of the materials. I feel a bit new for kind of pushing too much forward without sort of like just a bit
Okay.
new, but I don't disagree with anything that I Ching has said. I think there's pushback from the neighbors. There's always going to be pushback from the neighbors. Demolitions are a bummer. Increasing, square footage is a bummer. Like, it's a challenge, but why this person? Why does this person sort of bear the burden of, correcting this entire arc? I think there was a lot of thoughtfulness in the design. They responded to Brian's comments. And, I agree that I think there have been efforts to minimize the impact. So I don't, from what I was able to see, I don't strongly disagree with anything I Ching's put forward.
So
Is that a second though?
Would you like to second that motion so we can get to a vote?
Maybe a tentative second?
Well,
okay, I'll second.
Both feet get wet. Okay, so we have a second on the motion. Just to remind everyone, we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion on the motion?
I just have a question about if the house at number 36 is the same size relative to the lot that the house at 40 is. Was there a reason why the house at 36 did not go through site plan review? Is it because there was no trigger? We have no information on that. If that's something you need to know in order to make your decision, then that's something to ask the building commissioner about. So if there's no other discussion on the motion, then I'm going to call a vote. And Nick, if you could just voice your abstention, that would be great. So Nick?
So I'm recusing, so I abstain.
Okay, thank you.
Recusal.
I Ching?
Aye.
Sally?
Nay.
Okay, Carrie?
Aye.
And I say aye as well. So we will, I think that there's, I don't know what the report to the Z, so we have the result is 3-1, 1 abstentions, 3-1-0. I don't know what the report to the ZBA will be in terms of particular comments. Sally, that's unfortunately your job.
My task at hand is to record the comments and the vote and the discussion and the vote, and I will do so tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, everyone. I'm sorry we're a little delayed, but thank you for showing up. And now we have to jump right into our next public hearing, which is the continued public hearing on the Rocky Ledge subdivision. So if I could give a motion to open the hearing or to continue the hearing, whatever, a motion to continue the hearing, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Sally?
To open the hearing, aye.
I Ching?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I say aye as well. So welcome everyone. Welcome our Rocky Ledge guests. Again, sorry for the delay. Thank you, Ricky, for putting your last name in, but now I know it's Ricky. I will have to, we're on Zoom protocol here, Zoom bond protocol. So I'm going to ask your team to unmute so that you will be able to speak. Have I missed anyone? I've got Ricky, Drew, Mark, Brian.
Got us all.
Got it all? Okay, good. Okay, so I was hoping tonight would be the last on this, but my ignorance of some of the procedures, I think, is going to have to require us to ask for yet another extension in order to get the papers works finished. And Mark, were you approached by town council at all on this?
I have not heard from town council,
okay,
Chairman, but certainly I understand that without a town planner right now, you may want to have his or her assistance in terms of, preparing a decision. What I was hopeful that we might be able to accomplish tonight is that, I think that I don't want to speak for the board, obviously, but I think that we've hopefully reached closure on the engineering items and other aspects of it through the prior hearings that we've had to the point where the board would be in a position to vote to hopefully approve the project with the understanding that and with the waivers and whatever conditions the board felt appropriate to, put into the decision, with the understanding that the written decision would need to be drafted and finalized at a future date. But
yeah. So Sally and I met with town council last Thursday to go over and make sure that we understood what the steps were. And town council was a little less sanguine about us making a decision this evening. So I think what we can, his suggestion was that we list the waivers and conditions that would go into the board's decisions, so that those are all stated. And then he would, and I guess, so for the board, the key thing is that before the board can, let me bring up the subdivision language. Excuse me for a second, I have to regain control of my computer. Okay, so if we go through the criteria for, there's two things we need to do. There's the criteria for our decision, which are, make it a little bigger. These are the criteria. We'll go through conditions of approval. Most of these are pretty much boilerplate. Then there's what we do. There's endorsement. That's all pretty much boilerplate. The big thing here that is, I'm sorry, let me get to the stupid section. Pardon me. It's been a very long day. So the thing that I was getting messed up on last time we met was this, what's technically called the form of surety. And so this is the proponents would fill out they would provide some sort of guarantee of performance. And this is done by filling out some forms. We would also need an HOA, which would be that the town approves of, and that's the other thing. So what I asked town council to do was to work with Mr. Vaughn on just to make sure that the surety was done appropriately, that the HOA met the town's needs. And I think those were the big ones. And then the town council would draft the actual decision. But the key thing here is this is before endorsement of its approval. And the endorsement, I believe, is a technical step. And Mr. Vaughn, you can chime in at any point, and because I have learned this last week. I'm definitely not a lawyer. Let me.
Well, my understanding of the endorsement of the plan is the signatures on the approved subdivision plan itself on the Mylar, which would then be recorded with the registry. So, I'm obviously familiar with the form of security needing to be provided. I think in this particular instance, it would likely be a covenant whereby it would be executed by the property owner, indicating that the road would need to be constructed and built out before any of the lots could be released, obviously. So,
right.
But
so I think we're okay on the surety, because the endorsement is, as you pointed out, under 6.8, there's a written endorsement. So it's not the condition. We can't sign the Mylar until we have that in hand. The thing that we do need to talk about are the the waivers that you requested, and I think that why don't we start with the waivers, and then we can talk about we'll bring Brian Mantor and your engineer in. We can talk shortly about the response to the 53G consultants. So the waivers that are in front of the board are, there's a number of submission waivers which are not of import right here. And I actually have the list of waivers here. Where the heck are they? Okay, so I'm going to make this bigger than that. Okay, so we want to look at the development. So we're going to ignore the submission waivers. Those are all dealt with. The water loop, so you're going to need a waiver for this, and I think I believe that's an easy one to grant. So the first waiver is for the water loop, and engineering, you concur that this waiver should be granted?
Correct.
Okay, so that's our first waiver.
You need a motion?
No, we don't. We just need to list all the waivers. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I suppose the board does have to vote on these waivers. Yeah. Do we want to just do them all at once, or do we want to do them one by one?
One by one.
Okay, so is there a motion to accept this waiver, to approve this waiver?
Yeah, based on our discussion from last time, seemed like it was engineering did approve it, and so I moved to waive this.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, let's do a roll call. Sally?
Yes.
Yi-Ching?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I say aye as well. Okay, that's easy, unanimous. The next waiver, this is means of access. So this is essentially the cul-de-sac waiver at some point.
Well,
Yes.
maybe that's 765.
Yeah, so we have they're kind of together, but let's just go with means of access. Two recognized means of access for each subdivision, so we need a waiver to allow just one. The one thing that we do have here for your development team here is that I don't think we've ever seen the truck turning plan.
We saw a fire truck. No, I take that back. That was a different project.
I note that I went back to Brian Zakelli's notes from in January. And that's one of the things he noted, was that there wasn't a truck turning plan. So is that something you folks have?
We do, and I apologize if you hadn't received it, but we will make sure the planning board receives that.
Okay, and I presume that actually works.
Yes.
Okay, so let's, under the assumption that the truck turning plan passes muster, then I think this is why don't we vote on this waiver? This is means of access. So is there a motion to approve this waiver?
I move that we approve this waiver to allow only one means of access for the Rocky Ledge subdivision. Is that the wording?
Sure, works for me. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call vote. Nick?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Sally?
Aye.
Yi-Ching?
Aye.
And I say aye as well. Okay, here we go. Here's the no dead end street. So this is the big one. The subdivision regs frown upon cul-de-sacs, and we actually have we have to do something about this. Not necessarily changing whether or not subdivision calls out that we don't like cul-de-sacs, but our town manager and town engineer has pointed out that the planning board keeps providing waivers for these things, but when they took the cul-de-sac approval out of the subdivision, they also took out the regulations for cul-de-sacs. So we no longer, if we do approve cul-de-sacs, we don't have any regulations to have people design them to. So that's just a side to the board. So
well, it's taking up on that point, because I've been thinking a lot about it, and it's perhaps, I know that in this one, the language was noted in, it said that design of the cul-de-sac, appropriately designed. So my question to the team, the development team, is if we could take a look at the cul-de-sac dimensions and have you tell us why the dimensions are that they are, what they are, with regards to perhaps Commonwealth of Massachusetts standards, because Winchester has not yet had a chance to revive or create updated standards for cul-de-sacs.
Sure, Ms. Dale, I'll take that really quick. I'm not 100%, I wasn't 100% prepared for that comment at this stage of the project. So I'm kind of shooting from the hip a little bit here. But what we do is we do take the, if a town does not have standards for cul-de-sacs, we will look at other towns nearby that have similar type of subdivision regulations and start there. There are roughly industry standards on cul-de-sacs that many communities in Massachusetts will use, which we mimicked here. And then what we did is we took the fire apparatus vehicle and ran that turning radius or vehicle movement on this to make sure it indeed worked. I mean, that is the limiting size vehicle that's going to be used in this cul-de-sac. So
right. And I know you've done all of your runoff calculations based on this precise design here. So it would be, in my personal opinion, it would be a hardship for us to say, we don't have any standards, but we want to make some and we'll tell you what they are when we get there. I don't think that's appropriate at this point in the process. I just want to know that the paving that's there is the least that it can be. And related to that is, if it can be made smaller, but still require truck tires to not go on grass, can it be with pervious pavers like cobblestones or whatever? And I'm not putting this as a condition, it's a question, because we don't have any standards.
Sure. So high level, you probably could consider that. I typically would not recommend doing the pervious pavers or anything like that on the edges as a cobblestone edging, because essentially what you're doing there is adding extra area for fire truck access and to drive over and give a little bit more space and room for that. Not so much for passenger cars. I mean, you only need about 20 feet of pavement width to comfortably allow cars to travel in opposite directions. If you have a car kind of parked on the side, 20 feet allows somebody to go around there. I'm not a big proponent of putting the pervious pavers on the interior because those fire trucks have significant load, and I'd rather personally them sit on something that's solid as asphalt versus pervious pavers, which could tend to kind of move if you have a really heavy load on top of it.
Right, get unsettled. What is the width that's depicted here? I don't see a measurement reference.
Sure, that would be on another previous plan. It should either be 20 feet or 24 feet. And that was mimicked from, if you remember, we had a sample cul-de-sac, a few roadways.
I remember it was, I forget the name of the street.
We actually went over there and actually physically measured that. Just, we met with the chief. The chief said, yes, this works very well here. So, we try to do the best we can from regulations in neighboring towns and industry standards, But I also want to make sure reality works, and that's why I do like to talk to the chief and to run the turning templates as well.
Right. No, I appreciate that.
And if I could just add one item, Ms. Deal, too, just with respect to, not trying to have more pavement than you need. I mean, we do have a very robust and significant landscape island that's in the middle of that cul-de-sac as well, just obviously, as you remember. So
Yeah, I do. And is that just grass? Is it just a grassy island? Is that what it is?
now there's plantings.
Oh, here it
yeah.
is. I remember now. Yes. Well, as I said, I don't want to pose, an 11th hour, like, whoa, we don't even have any standards on this. I don't think that's appropriate. I just want to make sure. So you said it was either 20 or 24?
Correct. And I don't know, I have one of my staff engineers on board. He may know off the top of his head exactly what we have here, but 20 feet would be more than sufficient, and we may have even provided 24.
So if 20 feet is more than sufficient, I would personally prefer less paving at the top of the mountain than more. And that would also positively impact your runoff, stormwater runoff.
Correct. And again, I have to look at our turning template to make sure that it worked, very well here. So.
Well, I'm not sure how to handle this, but I just wanted to get my thoughts on the table.
Well, why don't we, so there's a difference between the waiver for the cul-de-sac and then we could, say something about minimizing the impervious surface, which would be, I think, a condition of some sort as much as possible. But I think the key question here is that, I mean, we went and I apologize to Carrie, who wasn't on the board for the last several years. We've gone through a lot of discussion as to the appropriateness of granting a waiver for the cul-de-sac, in particular because the original thought was that the cul-de-sac, the idea of not allowing a cul-de-sac was to create connected neighborhoods. We heard from the proponents that if you wanted to have a through road through this area, it would require a substantial amount of engineering and be very disruptive of the site. Originally this design had, I believe, 6 homes in it. It's now gone down to 3. And when we started looking at this, there was also a question of Mr. Mahoney, who owns the property, or his family owns the property, came to the board and talking about the importance of being able to develop his land for the continuance of his business. So I think over the many months, we arrived at a somewhat of a consensus that we felt that the benefits of allowing the waiver for the cul-de-sac outweighed the negatives.
That's right.
And so I think that's part of our decision, is how we arrived at saying that a cul-de-sac was okay, and bringing everyone up to speed on that. So that'll be part of our decision if the board votes for the cul-de-sac. So is there a motion to approve? Oh, let me pop that back up. I'm sorry. I have to get that document back up so we can get the right document. Okay, so the document we're looking at, I'm sorry, try to find it. Not that one, not that one, this one. Yep, okay. So we would be approving a waiver from section 765, the no dead end streets, for all of the reasons I just discussed. Is there a motion to that?
Well, go ahead, Giching.
Okay, I can move it.
Okay, so move to approve a waiver for the no dead end streets. Is there a second?
I would second with the condition that if the condition that the developer make the width of the cul-de-sac the least road width that the fire department would accept, and if that's 20 feet as opposed to 24 feet, I would say that 20 would be my conditional preference, if that's the way you word it.
Okay, so this would be a separate condition, would be to minimize the width as much as is possible, given the needs of the fire department to navigate the road or whatever. And that would be one of our conditions. And if it turns out that it's at that level, then that's what it is. But
so
that,
having seconded I Ching's motion, but putting a condition on it, does that change your motion?
no, because I think that we would be voting. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we say that this is amending I Ching's motion? So let us see if there is, so that's a, oh shoot, this is
It
wrong.
requires us to vote on the amendment.
Yeah, let's vote on the amendment. So so Sally has moved to add this condition to the amendment. Is there a second for that motion?
I second that.
Okay, so that second is from Carrie. So let's take a vote on the amendment. So Nick?
Aye.
Sally?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
I Ching? Oh, I Ching, you've dropped out. Could you try again?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, thank you. And I say aye as well. Okay, so we're back to the main motion. Which is there a sec? Oh, Sally has seconded it. This is fine. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote on this. Carrie?
Aye.
This is a motion to approve the waiver. Sorry if that wasn't clear.
Right.
Nick?
Aye.
Sally?
Aye.
I Ching?
Aye.
And I say aye as well. So that waiver is voted on. Let's get to the next one, which is sidewalks on all roads. The point here is that this is not a main dragway, that the neighboring dwellings, I believe, also don't have sidewalks. I'm looking at Brian's notes on this, in which he says there are no sidewalks in the vicinity and therefore would not make sense in this location, and he recommended waiving this requirement. Is there a motion to approve this waiver?
I so move.
Okay, so this is 791. This is sidewalks. Okay, so we have a motion from Sally. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, the second from I Ching. Roll call vote. Carrie?
I remember significant concerns from the master plan about a lack of sidewalks on that side of town, so I'm sorry, I'm a nay.
Okay. Carrie is a nay. Nick?
Aye.
Okay. Sally?
Aye. To
And,
no sidewalks required for this
Right.
3-house road.
okay.
Right.
So I Ching?
Aye.
And Dibbs is aye as well, so that is 4-1. Okay, so I believe those, oh, there is a slope waiver as well, correct?
Chairman, before you move on, I did just while you were taking that roll call, I double checked the plans. The
Okay.
pavement width on that cul-de-sac is 20 feet indeed.
Okay, well then, there will be little work for you to do to meet that condition.
I just wanted, to make sure
Okay.
everybody feels
Thank you.
comfortable. Didn't leave that open.
Okay, I appreciate that. Now I note that, so in this list of waivers, there wasn't so I'm not sure what happened, because I see that Brian on his notes said that you've applied for a waiver for exceeding the 8%. And
Is that on the roadway?
Yeah, it's where they try, where wagon wheel.
Yeah, there was a very sharp transition.
Yeah, and so I apologize. I don't seem to have that document. So
I think it was addressed, Mr. Tim.
It was. If you remember, we actually brought the roadway down after the first submittal. So I believe our first submittal had the road up a little higher, and there was an instant when the slope of the road was greater than 8%. I believe there was some conversation there. And when we ended up bringing the end of the cul-de-sac back down, we were able to reduce that. If that's my recollection, and please, everybody, if I recollect incorrectly.
Does your engineer have anything to add to that?
He is correct. Yep, we did lower the roadway and kept it under 8%.
Okay, so we no longer need that waiver. Okay, so I think that covers all of the waivers. Oh, sorry, Mr. Ron. Yep.
One thing, I do seem to recall, and Drew or Brian, Tim, if you could correct me if I'm wrong, was there a waiver for utilities within the paved area right of way, or was that one that we no longer needed?
Oh, that's right. Yes, there is a, it got split. So why is it? Yeah, let's go and look. My apologies.
We previously requested that when we had a water line extension outside of the pavement. But we are now extending from the existing water, which is in the pavement. So we do not need that one.
Okay.
Okay, so it's interesting that.
This is the document from, I don't know, 6-8 months ago. Is that right?
Well, it's December. It sure feels like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, way back last Christmas.
But I don't actually see that. So this is interesting. So somehow an extra waiver was added and then it was taken out. So you no longer need a waiver for utilities within the paved area right of way. So that's good. And I think
because you're putting it, so the town likes you to have the utilities in the paved right of way, and you're doing that. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so Brian Manter, as far as you know, is that it for the waivers?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay, and you had
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I'm gonna butt in again, but there were some submission waivers that were requested as well, which I don't think were an issue at all. Just I don't know whether the board, would want.
Yes.
I would want to know what they are. I'm sorry that I don't remember, Mr. Vaughn.
Okay, well, let's go through. Why don't I bring up? So these are the submission waivers.
Oh, here we go, right here.
I assume since we're so far beyond submission, but
Right.
why don't
Necessary, but it's if the board wanted to just, acknowledge, approve the submission waivers that have been submitted, that which I think we did cover previously, just in terms of some of the abutting properties not having to show the level of detail that you would otherwise need to show.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm having some dropout issues, so I apologize if.
So you're requesting a waiver on the number of plan sets that you had submitted, which I am assuming that you submitted the reduced number in anticipation of receiving the waiver. Is that right?
Yes, I presume.
Well, is
I
it?
think what happened was we must have approved it because we only have that. So why don't we just, there's a little bit of a discontinuity between the town planner's notes and what I'm seeing in this December 8th letter. So it's a little weird. But let's just use this December 8th letter. This is December 8th, right? No, yes.
What's the date of his notes?
His notes are from January, but they're based upon the submission. So.
All right.
So
how many did you submit? Is that a known thing?
Hey, it was way back 6 or 8 months ago, right? I'm just quoting you on that one.
Yeah, I think why don't we just say that, here are the waivers that on the left, you can see what Brian wrote. And come on, let's go with the next one. Okay, so.
Summary of waivers requested, there's that.
Yeah, there's the submission waivers are in the next plan. So hold on a sec, what's going on here? Something weird is happening to the bottom of this page. Okay, so we've gone through that. And we go to submission waiver, land contours extending 150 feet into adjacent land. And I believe that is, these don't match up at all.
It's hard to see your left document because it's cut off on the left. Or maybe I just changed my view option. There, I fixed it, fit to window.
Well, I mean, I would, you know, the document on the left is the one that came in with the packet. Or I'm sorry, the document on the right is the one that came in with the packet. So I don't know what Brian was responding to on the left. So why don't we just go through and let's just do a quick roll call vote. Someone move and second quantity of submitted plan sets. We're going to approve the submission.
I move it. I move.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Nick?
Aye.
I Ching?
Aye.
Sally?
Well, I'm going to say abstain because I don't know what the impact is. So I'll just abstain.
Okay. Carrie?
I'm way behind here, so I will join Sally in an abstention.
Okay. Okay, so I'll just vote aye as well. So we have 3-0, 2 abstentions. These are all, you know, we're at the end of the process. So the submission waivers, you know, let's just, I think we've agreed to this one. This is location of buildings, structures. There are no buildings or structures within 100 feet of the perimeter of the subdivision. This was all because the rest of the lots are so far away. So why don't we just call this the location waiver? So is there a motion to
So the motion would be that we would waive the requirement that the plans depict buildings located on the abutting lots on the basis that
the location of all existing building instructions within the subdivision within 100 feet of the perimeter of the subdivision and topography extending 200 feet beyond the perimeter of the subdivision. So we would be waiving section 642J and 6420. So a motion to that.
Yeah.
Someone just say move it and then we can move it.
Move it.
Okay, is there a second?
So this just keeps them, it makes it so they don't have to draw
This
the
is already
adjacent
done.
buildings.
It's already
Yeah,
done.
this is, we've essentially accepted all of these because we're not going to go back and have them
Right.
resubmit new
Okay.
things. So this is merely just to make sure that all of our I's and T's are crossed and dotted. So a second for that.
Second.
Okay, so let's see, roll call vote then. I Ching?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Sally? Carrie?
I'll abstain because I'm just so lacking in base knowledge. Like I'm just behind on those details.
Right.
That's
okay.
fine.
That's fine. And I will, I vote aye as well. So we're 401. Our next waiver is for profile existing proposed grades along the left and right of way lines for the proposed subdivision roadway, which is section 645C II or 2. Is there a motion to waive that submission requirement?
So moved.
Is there a second? This is just like the last one, so.
Right.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So roll call vote, please. Nick,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
Carrie,
Abstain.
and Dieb says aye as well. So we're 401 on 645C II. A waiving of the traffic studies, section 652-10.
I move that we waive the traffic study.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, okay, roll call vote. Nick,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
Carrie,
Abstain.
and I say aye. So we're at 401. I believe those are all of the waivers.
Is that right, Mr. Vaughn? In the absence of our planner, we're feeling his loss.
I think there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 submission waivers, if I recall. And is that what you just voted on, all 5?
No,
or?
we just voted on 4 because that's what I see on your.
Quantity of sets, location of buildings within 100 feet of the perimeter, profile of existing grades left and right of the right of way, and a traffic study. Yeah, that was 4.
Okay.
And I think in the town planner's memo, when you look at that, I think he broke out the land contours. No?
Yeah, 533J.
So, no, I can't see. his-
No, I can see it on the other one. It's topography within 200 feet, but
Yeah, these are
very
all.
similar.
Oh, the
yeah,
number
these-
5 was the water main loop, according to his, oh, and also, well, yeah, this is a
Wait, wait,
different
wait.
list.
Well, we're looking, the submission waivers were 533J, 621B, which we already did. We didn't do 533J, 642J, which is that one, 645C we got that one. And traffic. So I think the difference is that you requested a submission waiver under 642J and 642O, and he has recorded on the left here, submission waiver 533J. So why don't we just go ahead and, just to keep everybody going nuts, let's just request a submission waiver, a motion to approve a submission waiver of section 533J.
Yeah, I thought we voted on that, but, oh, I see, because it's described in the document on the right as being part of section 642J and section 642O.
Yeah, so let's just to keep all our ducks in a row.
Okay,
Is
so
it-
moved. I move
so
that,
moved.
yeah.
Okay, so we're moved that we're going to accept 533J. Is there a second?
I just have to see what the language is. I don't understand the difference.
It's
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a
It's-
pain in the neck.
no, I'm just this is water under the bridge at this point.
Because this is already done.
Yeah, these are the plans that we've been looking at for the last 4 months, so.
Yeah, okay, 533J is a statement with respect to cut and fill operations, including a general assessment of the net import or export of fill. From the subdivision, land contours at 2-foot intervals shall extend at least 150 feet into the adjacent land. So it's really, J is 2 things. It's a cut and fill statement and showing contours 150 feet. We waived the
Just
one
the
that said contours, or it's topography going 200 feet and up to the buildings, but we didn't. So this is 2 things in the J.
Right, so we're just waiving land contours.
Okay, so the cut and fill, has that already been provided?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're not waiving the first sentence, we're waiving the last sentence of J.
right.
Okay. Thank you, Brian.
So, we have a I Ching has moved this. Is there a second?
I second with the clarification that it's referring to the,
Yeah, I'm sorry that you can't see. I'll try to put it in the middle of my screen. Maybe you can see it there.
land contours submission. Okay, yes, I second.
Okay, and so let's do a roll call vote, please. Nick,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
Carrie,
Abstain.
Sally,
Aye.
and Dibbs is aye as well. So we're at 401 on that one. So I think we're done with waivers. Okay, great. Now the one thing, Brian Manter, I am trying to pull up, you gave us a,
Did.
I can't find it, darn it. So this is this? No, this is yours. This is your,
This is
RJOC's.
yeah, this is
your
our response.
Yeah. So Brian Manter, do you want to quickly run through and say, whether the responses are, appropriate?
With respect to what?
So there was a back and forth. So this is our final letter from RJOC on the 7th, which is responding to.
Oh, really?
Yes, so I think Weston Sampson reviewed these. And I saw Weston Sampson sent out a response email like a few hours ago. I haven't gotten a chance to sit down and digest that. But cursory review, just skimming over it during the meeting, it looked like the Weston Sampson acknowledged or had no comment on all the items. I don't know if the representatives from RJOC had taken a look or seen anything different.
I did, Brian. I took a look at it, read it during the previous public hearing here, actually, because that's when I saw it on my email. Went through it as well, and Weston and Sampson, I don't want to put words in their mouths, but they said that the comments were addressed. The only thing they had outstanding was that the drainage for each lots would be handled during the building permit stage, which we've already talked about previously. In general, they basically said there's no technical issues. They concurred with our responses.
Okay. So.
Yeah, this is a 3-page letter. Can you just spin through the first 2 pages? Because I truly, if this came in just in the middle of the meeting, again,
No, this came in last week, and I
okay.
apologize. This is the one no, don't be sorry, because I sent it to the board this afternoon because it slipped through my mail filters.
I see. Okay.
So this is a, this is a response from RJOC to Weston and Sampson's response. I mean, so this is I don't know how many times these two parties have gone back and forth, but what I understand is that and Brian Manter, correct me if I'm wrong, from engineering's perspective, all of the concerns expressed by engineering and by the 53G consultant have been addressed to the satisfaction of engineering?
Correct, yes.
Okay. That's what I needed to hear.
And Brian, you had said that you had in your memo you sent out a memo where you had some conditions.
Yes, yeah, recommend conditions.
Yeah, I can't seem to find that memo. I must have stored it somewhere.
Yeah, if it's convenient, I can
you should be co-host, so go right ahead.
Okay, so okay. Let me know when you guys can see.
We see.
Okay, so the first this is the memo that was sent out on April 3rd in advance of the meeting last week, I believe. So this section is the waiver requests. We've addressed those, and then just summary. I think we talked about them a little briefly during the presentation last week as well. So we can dive into it a little bit further now. So the first one is recommends in the decision a condition that the conformed construction drawings showing locations of the underground electric, underground telecom light poles to be provided to the town for review and approval. The reason for this condition is that the applicant, the design team, isn't quite sure where these are going to shake out just yet because they need to continue working with the utility companies to get that information. So so we're confident that the developer will do this work. It's just, it would be good to see that final deliverable.
Right.
Okay. Is that an issue?
Brian, interject if I misstate something.
Yep, no, that's perfectly fine. I know we've gotten will serve letters from them as well. So the suppliers, or they're imminently coming. So we believe they will be able to provide it.
Excellent. Okay.
The decision to include the condition that we understand a little more fully what the proposed streetlights are going to look like. and that they're to be night sky compliant. I believe at this stage, it doesn't change their design or their approach to the subdivision, but street lighting is important and night sky is important. So, to flesh that out more fully before the construction begins.
I will value seeing the street light fixture that you choose, the whole lamp pole.
Okay, so is that an acceptable condition? I mean, that's not gonna.
That's acceptable. We've
Okay.
actually said we have on our plan that we're gonna coordinate that with the town
Okay,
at that stage.
Excellent.
okay, excellent. Let's go on to the next then, please.
Just noting that the water, sewer, and drainage infrastructure, so that'd be the utilities, like how the water main's installed, how the sewer pipe is put in the ground, comply with Winchester standards.
Okay.
We're fine with that.
This just a decision to include a condition that an I&I fee is to be paid to the town prior to the issuance of the building permits for the lots.
Is this something different from standard practice or?
I think I've seen this in other ZBA memos that the engineering department has written in the past, but it's also just a good reminder, as when to keep it on everyone's radar that I&I fees are to be assessed.
So the building permit for each lot will be issued when somebody proposes to build on each lot. And it would go primarily to the building department if it's being constructed as of right. And so that is a condition that the building department would want to be aware of. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you'll do that?
Well, somehow the building department will,
No.
we'll work it out
Okay, good. Sorry,
somehow.
thanks.
Is that condition's okay with you folks? I don't know who sets the
Yes.
I&I fee. Okay.
Yep.
Next one, please.
Recommends that the applicant to remove tree roots as recommended below. And I believe that was something that was addressed through the Weston Sampson memo as well. I thought I saw reading it quickly that the applicant would do that.
And these are the root issues that are on your property?
Correct.
They are.
Okay.
Correct. And we notated as such on our revised plans.
Okay, excellent. Next one, please.
Engineering department recommends that the applicant obtain a NetDees permit and provide the SWIP prior to construction. These are stormwater erosion control plans that help dictate and form during construction of the road.
Right. That's good.
Okay.
We're fine with that. Once the operator is selected, they apply for the NOI, and we'll put together the SWIP for them.
Okay.
This one, recommends that include a condition that prior to the issuance of the building permit for each lot, the applicant provide fire flow calculations according to building design. This was a recommendation that was echoed from what Weston Sampson had provided in their hydraulics review.
And if the calculation, I mean, how does this affect the building of the lots? You can't get more water in there, so.
I guess, how would it affect building of the lot?
Well, I would presume that your calculations of the size of the water supply into the whole subdivision takes into account a fire truck needing to put out a giant fire. So is that a safe assumption? I mean, assumptions are a terrible thing.
Yeah, when the hydraulic analysis was done, they did a fire flow analysis based on the flows results that they saw in the field. And so they were able to, those fell within the fire, guidelines for fighting fires. But I believe there are requirements on how much water or how to size a building with respect to like fighting a fire size.
So those fire flow calculations would come from the person who wants to build the house?
Correct.
And what if the fire flow calculations are say that there's not enough water to put out a fire.
Then the size of the house would have to be adapted.
Okay, so this, okay, so this will change. They can only build a house that meets the, okay. And I presume
It's
they're
supported by the fire flow.
Yeah. And
Yeah, so
there are standards
yes.
for that, I presume.
Yeah, so Weston, the peer review indicates that there's a lot of water that could be up there, and that fire flow can be maintained, you know, when they drop the pressures due to flow, you know, the demands on flow. There was another good recommendation in the peer review that, you know, at the building stage, that fire flow calculations be provided as part of that package. So I was putting this in here as helpful reminder that that was a good recommendation.
Right. So those two things we would tell the building commissioner, and confident that they won't present an obstacle to the home builder.
Yeah. So I'm personally don't know what sort of conditions we can put on the lot, but that's why don't it seems like
it's not a condition on the lot, it's a condition on the infrastructure to the lot.
Yes, but we're talking about this is just in mind a fuzzy distinction between the subdivision regs, which we're talking about the road, versus what happens when you try to build a lot. And so that's my only question is, you know, if this is a standard thing that people have to go through, like Brian, if someone were to build a new house somewhere else in town, would they have to provide these fire flow calculations as well?
I've not seen them.
Okay, so this is specific to this site for a particular reason?
Yeah, it shook out from the peer review.
Okay, so I'm, you know, I just don't know whether we can put a condition on the building permit, since we're not.
I thought we did that up above in.
Yes, and I just realized that. So.
Is this a question for town council?
Well, it's certainly not, Mr. Vaughn, is this a question you can guide us on? Is this an appropriate thing in a subdivision decision to put conditions on building permits?
I haven't seen it that often, to be honest with you. I mean, the building permit will be the building permit. I mean, we need to go through the proper process to obtain a building permit, confirm that any house complies with setbacks and all of that. But I don't typically see a condition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I concur with that as well. I haven't seen that very often, but.
Well, did I hear Brian Manter say that Weston and Sampson's assessment was that there's plenty of water up there to meet the needs of the 3-lot subdivision, and presumably in that statement there is putting fires out on 3-lot subdivision. Is that?
That is correct, yes. See if I can pull it.
Yeah,
this is the dainty 23-page document.
Yeah, so
I'm
trying to fire flow. So yeah, so revealed an available fire flow of approximate 3,000 gallons per minute at 20 psi. So it is still in excess of the required 1,000 gallons per minute at 20. So they're saying that fire flow, what they think the fire flow is what the requirement would be.
I see.
But then there was a recommendation. Is recommended that the developer confirm anticipated use and fire flow according to building design prior to construction. So I interpret that as prior to construction of the lots.
Yeah, but isn't that something that I mean, that's.
Well, it's a condition of the subdivision. So if somebody decides to buy and build on one of these lots, it just comes with those conditions.
Yeah, but I don't know that we can put conditions. Again, that's what I'm saying is we're doing a subdivision decision, not a. I don't know. And that's, you know, this sounds like a good idea. But if I were to like build a home on the lot next to my house right now, there's no requirement that I mean, is there a requirement that I provide a fire flow in order to build that house, or is that?
I've not seen it, and you know, I'm glad we're having this discussion, and I think that this is a good recommendation, but it also may be in the same vein as the recommendation to do sewer rehabilitation further downstream of their site.
Right, on Aristotle,
so like
or whatever it was, yeah.
Yeah, so they're making good recommendations. However, from a purely subdivision point of view, and what the planning board is reviewing and approving, this might not be particularly germane to what the planning board would want to approve, and that maybe this condition would be good. At the building department review point, when the engineering department's reviewing the individual building permits, that we would remember to make that comment.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's good common practice, but if it's not required, if these lots were, you know, any other place in town, if we aren't requiring them to do this fire flow analysis, then we shouldn't require it of them here.
Yeah.
Unless, you know, unless we want to, I mean, if the building department wants to institute that requirement for every lot, then that's up to the building department. So
right.
I
think that's a fair statement.
Okay. So let's go back to, and so I don't know what we do about our vote about I&I. I think we're going to let that stand for the moment, just because it's getting really late.
Yep.
Yeah.
So why don't we, an HOA is, those are conditions on the HOA, which we'll make sure are in there. That's something we can do.
Yeah. And then these next one, yep. I'm just trying to go, sorry to interrupt you, DM.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Just to go quickly, and then the next ones are all following underneath the Winchester stormwater standards, you know, just pointing out the requirements to meet those specific standards and sections. So, you know, pre-construction meeting to be held, how inspections are to occur. And these inspections are pertinent to the stormwater infiltration system, as-built drawings to be developed and per our guidelines, and then the O&M HOA to be recorded at the registry.
So these conditions are essentially on the HOA.
I don't.
The HOA is a condition of them getting a permit to create a subdivision.
Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to understand where these as-builts come from. These are pre-construction for each lot, or is this is this for this cul-de-sac?
For the cul-de-sac.
Okay, so this last bullet here is just for the cul-de-sac.
Correct.
And are these things?
So it's cul-de-sac as-built drawing, cul-de-sac operation and maintenance manual, cul-de-sac homeowners agreement and easements.
Correct.
And are these things that have to be done anyway, or is this a reminder of things that need to be done anyway, or is there some special?
It's more of a reminder.
Okay, because I think that what I would personally prefer is that we keep these on the side, but that we not enter them as conditions, because if they have to meet these regulations anyway, it's not really a condition, which would be something above and beyond the normal requirements.
The creation of the HOA is a condition that I wouldn't want to set aside, but this last bullet says it's just that it has to be recorded.
Yeah, so the HOA is not a condition, it's a requirement, I believe. It's part of the subdivisions regs. So so I don't think the HOAs definitely has to be there. So why don't we scroll up from the top and let's take a look at we've voted on some of these already, I believe. No, we haven't.
I think.
Have we?
It's a lot of voting to do.
Yeah, so why don't we I would suggest that we do a consent decree sort of thing. My electronic notebook here is not working, which is really annoying. My apologies. Okay, so.
So like a consent agenda, is it?
So let's take a look. So let's say, engineering department recommends decision include a condition, confirm construction drawings, show a location of underground electric, underground telecom and light poles be provided for the town for review.
Yep.
That's number 1 on our agenda. Number 2, recommends the decision include a condition that conformed construction drawings show proposed street light, that the street lights be night sky compliant, and that the applicant will provide proposed street lighting to the engineering department and planning board for review and approval. I think the next one is pretty much okay. The engineering department included, okay, there's a condition that the conformed construction drawings include notes that water, sewer, and drainage infrastructure be installed and tested for Winchester standards. Is that above and beyond what they would normally have to do, Brian?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I just want to really narrow it down.
Okay.
The I&I fee, this is where we're moving over into, is this something? So why don't we,
Well, so is there any bylaw in town, I don't know where it would reside, that says that I&I fees have to be paid at the time of the permit application, or certainly before the building permit is issued? I'd have to.
I have no
Yes,
idea.
I don't know if there's a gosh, I don't know. I just know that that's what I've been told.
Yeah.
You pay your
Does
I&I
this come
fee
from
before you
Weston
get
and Sampson?
No, this is a like a town approach. So if you had a by right project, like a lot that didn't have a house on it before, and you're building a new house on it that has 3 bedrooms, you'd have to pay an I&I fee before you were issued the building permit.
Right, okay.
Well, that seems
So-
like it's standard practice.
Yes, it
Yeah.
does.
So I think we don't need to put it in if it's standard practice.
Okay,
Okay, so,
keep going down.
so we have the roots, the applicant remove and treat roots as recommended. I believe that's an appropriate condition. Obtaining MPDS and cysts, whatever, those are, let's put that in as a condition. I think we're gonna skip the fire flow,
Okay.
the HOA.
That's a must.
Yeah, I don't, so let's,
Wait, I lost my place here. Oh, here,
yeah,
no. Oh, this is, yeah, to create a homeowners association, right?
that's already in there, though.
Yeah.
That's already in there.
We have already provided that document
Yeah.
to the town. So.
Yes, and that's, it's in our town council's email box, apparently. And these conditions are, why don't we include those?
Mhm.
These are all for a pre-construction, yeah, so, but these are all, sorry, these are all conditions that would, these are all things that would have to happen anyway, Ryan, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so, so I apologize. My handwriting, my electronic tablet is not working well this evening. So let me switch to paper and pen if I can find something that works.
Would it be?
So let's look at them. So
Can
we
we
have,
just color code the ones that we said tonight that we would use as conditions?
yeah, so it's the first one, it's
Okay,
construction
good.
drawings, the night sky one.
Yep, that one's
Thank
in.
you. The next one, we said, sure.
That one we said it's gonna happen anyway, right? Oh, the notes say
The notes.
they will be
let's-
installed
yeah.
and tested per our standards. I guess we should have that in there.
Yeah, so let's put, if you could turn the color on that, yep. I&I fee, yeah, that one, yes, that one's correct. The long acronyms. Let's turn that one on. Okay, let's go to that one. Okay. So I think that's it. I think those are the ones that I think they're not putting, they're not saying anything about what the building permit is, because those should all be standard, or according to standard practice of the town. Okay, so is there a motion from the board? Well, first of all, Rocky Ledge folks, are these, I know we've gone back and forth on this, are these conditions something that is something you can handle pretty easily?
Yeah, I don't think we have any issue with the highlighted conditions. Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
excellent, thank you. So is there a motion to approve these conditions as part of our decision?
I would move that the decisions highlighted in this evening's meeting and captured in the document that Brian is creating right now with a call out box, be conditions of our approval of the subdivision permit.
Right.
Is that right? Motion?
Yeah, that sounds like a good motion. Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, so let's do a roll call vote. I Ching,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Carrie.
I do think I followed all that.
Good. And we try our best to confuse you, Carrie, but you're seeing through our ploys.
You're doing great.
Diab says aye as well. Okay, so these conditions will be part of it. Excellent. The other, I don't think there were any other conditions. I noted that concerns about the grading, the guardrails have been addressed. You guys are going to put in the Merritt Parkway guardrails.
Is that a wooden guardrail?
Yeah.
It's wooden backed with metal.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it looks nice. And actually, Brian, if you give me back control, actually, I will do that. I managed to, and I'll do this very quickly.
So the trade actually calls it the Merritt Parkway handrail?
Yeah, it's because some dude called Merritt said we should do this.
No, it's because the Merritt Parkway is a beautiful road.
No, the Merritt Parkway is one of the first parkways built in Connecticut. And it has those guardrails, and it's got trees in the middle of it.
Beautiful, but very, very dangerous.
Oh, the Merritt Parkway is dangerous?
Oh,
Yes.
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 Yeah, it can be.
Fortunately, Rocky Ledge Circle or whatever is the right name of the road is not going to be handling Merritt Parkway traffic.
So this is what what it will look like.
Yeah, it's great.
Rusty on the back and rustic on the front. So this is just from some company.
That's great.
That makes them.
That's
Okay,
great.
so that's done. The only other conditions that I can think of is that, so there's the HOA agreement would be, so we've said something about it. The only other condition I would say was that the HOA agreement meets the requirements of the town and is approved by town council. Is that, I think that's strong enough language so that we can move on and just say, we can continue, we can approve this project under the condition that the HOA.
And the HOA and O&M, is that part of, they're all kind of like connected? Or is the O&M a product of the HOA?
The O&M has to go into the HOA.
Okay.
Brian Manter, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mark, what?
It's attached to the HOA as an exhibit.
Yeah, great, okay,
Right,
good, thank you.
and so do we have language? I think we have the language. Brian, does your language that we just approved provide us sufficient guarantees that we'll get a decent O&M?
Yes, I believe the applicant's already provided an O&M. And that was reviewed and approved.
Oh, good,
by the
okay.
engineer.
Okay, well then.
I think Weston Sampson saw it too, so.
Okay, so
what they provided is good.
So the only thing is that the only other condition would be, and I keep repeating myself, I apologize, it's the hour, that the HOA agreement is approved by town council. And I know I will, as soon as we come to a decision on this, I will poke town council and say, please move forward on that. Um, from Rocky Ledge's point of view, is there anything else? Any other loose ends that we should be concerned with?
No, I think that we will provide the appropriate performance guarantee, most likely a covenant. I think it's up to the applicant to determine which form of guarantee.
But that is a condition. The performance guarantee is a condition,
It's a
right?
condition of endorsement, which is where we sign the Mylars. I think we came to that conclusion earlier.
So what we're voting on today is an endorsement, no?
No, what we're voting on today is an approval of the subdivision, of the definitive subdivision that was presented to us. The endorsement comes when we sign the Mylar. I
Okay.
believe those are two separate.
Oh, I see. So we're putting forth our presumably our agreement of the subdivision with the conditions that we've all gone through. But there's another step in the process. Is that what you're saying? And at that step is where we say, yes, we've got the performance guarantee in place? I'm confused about process.
Okay.
I'm looking at your subdivision rules and regs, if I could, to address Ms. Deal. It says, before endorsement of approval of the definitive subdivision plan, the board shall require a performance guarantee to ensure construction of ways and the installation of municipal services. It lists 4 different forms of a performance guarantee. So I believe.
Is that a condition of our approval then, Mr. Vaughn? I'm sorry.
No, that's part of our subdivision reg, so it's not really a condition. It's, I'm gonna I'm sorry.
6.8.1.
Yeah, let me turn this off and make it big. So a performance guarantee shall have been provided by the applicant before approval. Sorry, what just happened? No, my apologies.
6.8.1.
Oh, that's nice. Why did you go to the, it just doesn't want to work with me today.
I see. So endorsement shall be obtained not more than 180 days after the approval of the definitive plan.
Yeah.
Or said approval shall be automatically rescinded. So we want to make sure that we do that.
Yeah, we don't want that.
No.
No.
I think if we had our town planner on staff, he would already be telling us all these things. It's
no. Okay, so the key thing here is that we approve it, then we endorse it, but we can't endorse it until we get a performance guarantee. So presumably, so I think that's the key thing.
Yeah, I mean, to the extent that you want to include within as a condition that, you know, a performance guarantee shall be required in accordance with the town subdivision rules and regulations. I mean, I think that perhaps is a belt and suspenders approach.
Yeah, I since you can't go any further without having done that, it seems unnecessary, but we can put that in there. We can condition that
Right.
performance guarantee is it's section.
remember this now. So, and there's all this language that if you don't
8.1.
do certain things by a certain time, or if we don't do certain things by a certain time. No,
Yeah,
if
but-
you don't.
Yeah, so we can, yeah, so we'll just say that one of the conditions will be that there will be a performance guarantee as specified in subdivision regs,
Okay.
specified in subdivision reg 8.1 will be provided prior to endorsement. Okay, so that, I think we'll have that in there. We can add that, belt and suspenders. I now know what belt and suspenders means. It means you have 2 things that hold up your pants. I'm sorry, I'm slow.
You didn't know what that expression meant?
You know, it could have been, you know, like spit and polish. I don't know.
Didn't your father wear a belt with suspenders? I'm sorry.
Don't, you know, you're asking me to remember something from a long time ago, Sally. That's not fair. Okay, so do I have a motion for that condition? to require performance guarantee as specified in subdivision section 8.1 prior to the endorsement of the plan by the planning board. That's the motion.
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
This is a big one. This is really important.
Let's say roll call vote. Sally.
Aye.
Yi Ching.
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
Terry.
Aye.
I say aye as well. I think, and then we have the condition that the HOA agreement is approved by town council. And I think that there might be some back and forth between you folks and town council, but I don't see this as being a stumbling block. If that's okay with you, we'll put that condition on there. So is there a motion to that?
I think Mr. Vaughn is trying to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see anyone.
No.
I'm
Yeah, no.
sharing screen.
I think that's fine, as we could work out the specifics with him, and if for some reason we can't come to agreement, I guess we can always go back to the board, but I'm hopeful that's not the case. But
I would imagine that we can work things out. Okay, so with that condition, the condition of an HOA acceptable to town council, is there a motion to that?
I would move that we approve the definitive subdivision plans with all the conditions that we agreed to be
Oh,
included.
wait. No,
Isn't that what we're talking about?
We have to vote on the HOA being approved or accepted by town council. So
Okay.
that's the motion.
I'll
move it.
Yeah.
Okay,
what
and
you
the
did.
second?
Second.
Okay. So roll call. Nick,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Yi Ching,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
and Deep says aye as well. Now, Sally, please make that motion.
So the motion I was thinking that we were coming to when we might be here is that to move that the planning board approve the definitive subdivision plans submitted for the Rocky Ledge development with all of the conditions that we talked about in today's April 11th, 2023 planning board meeting. And I'm not sure if I should say any other conditions that have been agreed to by this board in prior meetings.
I think that's pretty much it. You do have to mention the waivers.
And I do have to mention the waivers that were granted.
Yep. So I would suggest we say the planning board approve the definitive subdivision. Oh, I can't write English anymore. The definitive subdivision for Rocky Ledge Terrace.
Is that the name of the road, Ricky?
Yes, correct.
Okay, cool.
With the waivers and conditions approved by the planning board at its April 11th, 2023 meeting. Okay, that would be the motion. Would you like to make that motion, Sally?
I do. I so move.
And is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, let us vote. Let's go first. Nick,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
Yi Ching,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. It's been a long road, and I appreciate your patience.
thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate all the time. It's been a great process. I think we ended up at a great project here. So appreciate everybody's time.
Yeah, and so we will, currently we need to issue our decision within a certain time frame, or I'll figure that out. We'll talk to town council about moving forward.
Mark is speaking again.
Yep,
Yeah.
sorry.
To that point, Mr. Chairman, I think that today may technically be the day that we had extended that to, but I'm extending that, you know, for the written document to be put together and filed with the town clerk. So do you know what the meeting schedule? I mean, we're fine. Well, Ricky, you tell me. I think that we could put it out for a couple of weeks or something if you feel that that provides sufficient time to.
Yeah, whatever sufficient time that the board needs works for us.
That would be most welcome because we're moving into town meeting and we're running out of time for other things. So,
Well, 2 weeks would get it done before town meeting.
yeah, but we have a lot to do before town meeting. So if we could, let's.
Well,
So this board doesn't actually have to meet for that. Do we have to meet to do this? We probably do.
Well, you're documenting the decision, right?
Yeah. So
And we have to vote on the decision, right?
I think we just voted.
Good.
Documenting, yeah, let's just say, our first meeting so 2 weeks gets us to the
25th.
25th. And that is, right in the middle of town meeting.
Yeah, and we have agenda items on that day also, but
Can we try moving it to May the 9th? Is that too much of an issue? I mean, we'll try to get it done sooner. But May the 9th, I should hope would be more than enough padding. If that, let me know.
And we would provide the Mylars this week, if that's acceptable, so you can sign them as well.
Okay, I mean, that, if we get that all done by the 9th, that's, I mean, we can't sign the Mylars until we write up the decision, so. I more than happy to have them in-house, but I don't know if that, I guess it's one less obstacle. Yeah. So is May 9th okay?
Yeah. I mean, if it can be done sooner, the better, but if May 9th is what the board needs, then that works for us.
Yeah, I apologize. I just don't want us to, I mean, we've asked you for extensions twice already, and this is just, I hate doing it umpteen more times, which umpteen will not happen. I guarantee you that. So if May 9th is okay, then why don't we try to get this done as soon as possible, but at the very latest, May 9th.
Great.
And I will, so thank you.
yes, thank you.
So I appreciate this. It has been a long road. I know you guys have been, you people have been working hard on this for, what is it, 2 years now? I can't remember.
Yeah, so I think it's been about 2 years from the initial conversations preceding the preliminary plan, and then all that. But yeah, certainly appreciate all of your time, and Brian Manter, very much appreciate your time in reviewing this and working with the peer review consultant. So thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, well, excellent. So I think the only thing remaining this evening is to adjourn this meeting.
And the presentations to town meeting that are on our agenda, we will take them up on the 18th.
We're gonna have to, because
Okay.
we have to approve the presentations. And to be honest, I haven't written any, I spent the weekend writing up the presentation for our town meeting articles, not for our presentation to the actual.
Oh, the
meetings.
planning board report, I see. Okay,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So in any case, a motion to adjourn, I would appreciate.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. You gotta have more enthusiasm for that one. Is there a second?
I second it.
Yay. Okay, roll call. I Ching,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
Carrie.
Aye.
I say aye as well. And Carrie, just to let you know, we never do this.
What,
We
run over like
always-
this?
We never go over this long.
Oh,
This is-
Concom loves to push such late hours, so
Oh,
I'm
we don't-
thrilled
we
to hear
don't-
that we never go over.
We don't do that.
That's
No,
great.
this is really kind of a really unusual.
It's also a really big decision.
Yes, but it's unusual. Okay, so we've all voted. Did we vote? Yes, we voted to adjourn. Thank you to our recording secretary, Nancy Polcari. Thank you
Yes.
to Brian Manter, Assistant Town Engineer. Thank you to Richard Lee from Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to all the people who have stuck with us,
Yes, and
which is really remarkable.
I'm
Thank you.
really pleased to see so many interested members of the, well,
Thank
two.
you again to WinCam as ever. Thank you to everyone out in TV land. And we will see you in a week. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.
Recording